right now?
Right now. What do you mean, like, what do you mean live? We're recording right now.
Oh, okay. The mic is live.
Yes.
Yeah. The recording is going.
Who are you all? Introduce yourselves.
I am Bradley, a Russian doctor who has returned home to a village I don't recognize. Who the fuck are you guys?
Da.
My name's Joe Lloyd. I'm a diode in the Force.
Okay.
My name's Tyler. This is my third punch out of 5 on my Special Boy card, and I am one of the Childs of Light.
Hold on. Is this the third? Is this your third punch card?
I don't know.
No,
I know I missed
You were
one.
here last time. It reset. No, wait.
No,
He was
no. There
was
wasn't
here.
a.
That
Yeah.
counts. That counts.
I think you're on 2, or we'll see. I can.
Okay.
I have the footage. I can go back and check. All right.
It's not like we post these online.
In the spirit of making a slightly better podcast at almost no cost to us, I'm going to be reading out what we're going to be talking about in the order we're going to be talking about. That way you don't have to check the description if you don't want to, if you're just podcasting and driving or whatever.
And it also probably just seems more organized that way.
Yeah.
Sounds more professional, which you know we're all about.
You know me, dog.
So we're going to be talking about Bradley's going to be talking about Pathologic 2. I'm going to be talking about a TV show called The Umbrella Academy. Joe and Tyler are going to be talking about a little movie called Star Wars.
It's an independent film.
I don't know. Indie shit. And then we will talk about One Piece, and then everyone will leave so me and Joe can have love-making time with
Ew.
Jojolion.
Well, I can't do lovemaking when the light's on.
Okay. We'll turn off the cameras. All right. So we can just roll right into Pathologic. Bradley, why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, so before everyone turns off their YouTube video because they don't want to be spoiled on something they may or may not ever play, Pathologic 2 is actually a remake of Pathologic 1.
What?
What?
You don't have to play Pathologic 1 to play Pathologic 2. Its development was like on their Kickstarter, they first like advertised it as we're gonna remake Pathologic, and then somewhere along the line it's still a remake, but it's also a sequel in addition to that. And just because of the nature of the plot and setting of the game, any game that takes place in this setting would simultaneously be a remake and sequel. So this isn't going to be a long talk. It's just going to be like, hey, here's what it is and maybe what's unique about it. In Pathologic, you are a young Russian medical school student who receives a letter from your father saying that basically he needs you to come home right away because he's basically confronted with an obstacle that he's not going to be able to overcome without your help. You haven't been home in about 7 years, and when you get there, you don't recognize much of anything. The town itself is worn down and very surreal. There's buildings that look like they belong there, but there's also very alien buildings like this giant tower called the Polyhedron that should not be able to stand, but somehow it does. And there's a weird mishmash of all these cultures like Mongolian tribal buildings and like surrealist Russian architecture. And on top of all that, everybody speaks kind of in riddles that you don't understand, and there are these non-human people running around. So a big part of the game is that it's a mystery, and part of that mystery is finding out like what the game is or what happened to this village.
Back it up a little bit. What is the gameplay here? Because I know nothing about this game aside from hearing that it's great and it's frustratingly hard, but that's also kind of the appeal.
Yeah, so a lot of the game is going to be running around town and talking to people. And I think I told one of you guys that I like this game surprisingly a lot, considering over half the playtime is reading dialogue. because I'm usually not. I usually don't care for games with a lot of like
That,
cutscenes or
that's
dialogue.
more in my wheelhouse, I feel like.
Yeah. There's a variety of things you can do, um, but they all kind of take a backseat to like just making your choices in dialogue. You can fight people, but it's about like punching trees in Minecraft. Um, it's more about the why you're fighting people than the fight itself. You are a doctor, so you can go around curing people, which will like raise your reputation around town. And depending on your reputation, you could be attacked on site when you walk into a district, or people will like try to help you or maybe give you good deals in shops. Um, a really, I think what makes the game so interesting is that some of the hardest choices I've ever had to make in games are in this one. It tries to make virtually everything you do is going to be very final and permanent. You, the game runs on a clock. Um, like it has like a 24-hour day-night cycle, and there is not enough time in the game day to do everything. So
From
you have to really
from
like
what I hear, each day is like 20 minutes, right?
yeah, you have to really decide who it is in the town that you care about and what you want to do. And it makes it all the more heartbreaking when you show up somewhere and you were 15 in-game minutes late to saving this character's life.
Oh no.
And when a day passes, the events that you missed are gone forever. You are not going to be able to do these events. And there's kind of even more finality to death. Whenever you die in the game permanently gets harder.
Oh, wow.
It'll take away some of your max health, or it might curse you, saying like you will never be able to talk to this person again, or you can't do this kind of action. And this is kind of made even more terrifying by the fact that this persists across all of your saves. So even if you went back to the very beginning of the game, you would still have these penalties. The last, like, I think more unique thing about this game is that I think it's relatively clear from the beginning, both by dialogue and just the way the game looks, that I think it's implied that this game is actually a play that is being observed. There will be people walking around who are wearing like a black morph suit with a white mask, and they kind of act as background characters. And a lot of areas of the town are laid out very cinematically. There will be like stage lights just floating in midair to give something that really nice lighting. And people are laid out in relation to each other the way you might see them on a stage.
You probably I don't know if you mentioned it exactly. I'm just trying to visualize it. Is this a top-down thing or is this a first person?
Yeah, this is a first-person game.
Oh, okay.
So I think while you can do stuff like run around, fighting people or curing people of disease, there's also a survival element where you have to, get enough food to survive, which is usually done by digging through trash cans and trading with hobos and children. Those are elements of the game that you're going to have to do at some point. But I think the core of the game is making hard decisions about who you want to save, and deciding at what point are you going to kind of sacrifice your morality. Because a very interesting thing I've noticed several times throughout this game is that an NPC tells you that you are going to do something. They tell you, the player, that you are going to do something at some point. Like this guy, you are going to kill them. And even though the game does not literally force you to do that, I find myself eventually getting to the point that I do that very thing.
That sounds really cool.
This happened near the beginning of the game where it shows these three guys, and it said, hey, you're about to kill them. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I want to try to play this game peacefully. And then it presented me with a situation where immediately I was like, oh my God, I have to kill these guys. And then as soon as I did it, it was like, you just said you weren't going to do that.
So the game kind of fucks with you a little bit.
Yeah, this game fucks with you a lot. I think if nothing else, this is just a supremely unique setting. I haven't seen anything else like it. I don't know if I'd say much more about the game because I wouldn't want to spoil anything. It's really unique. I, like most people, found out about the game through Mandalore Gaming's review of it on YouTube. If it sounds interesting at all, check out the review. That it won't really spoil anything in the game for you. And yeah, Pathologic 2, it's good. Check it out.
What's the Bradley score on it?
I'm gonna give it a tentative 4 out of 5. I'm not entirely done with the game yet. There's a lot I want to do still. But it's a very unique experience I've never had with a game before.
Are there multiple endings?
There, I think, are a dozen endings you can get.
Okay.
So there must be a true ending where... Is there a true ending where maybe you save everyone or save, like, a certain amount of important characters?
I'm not sure yet.
It seems like it'd be difficult to pull off, but it would be rewarding if it is difficult.
Yeah, I've heard it's a very common experience for people to go in saying, like, oh, I'm going to try to be the lawful good. I'm not going to kill. I'm not going to steal. I'm going to try to help everybody. But it's because the game is so difficult that it's very hard to keep that mindset as long as you go. You could, I'm sure, technically beat the game without sacrificing any of your morality, but the game's really going to test you.
Good stuff. Stop it. All right. What did I say was next? I believe I said I would talk about the Umbrella Academy.
Umbrella Academy.
All right. This is a show I've been chipping away at for quite a while. It's got one season on Netflix. That season is 10 episodes long. The episodes range from 45 minutes to an hour. So they're on the lengthier side. So it's a beefy show.
Yeah. Is Umbrella Academy, is it like based on something?
It is based on a comic book series.
Okay.
Yeah. I've never read it. I know this.
And the art of the comic book series and the character designs are so different from what we got. But I mean, it seems like a cool adaptation. I know they changed a lot. We're going to be talking only about the Netflix show because that's really all I know. The premise of the show is one day, I believe in 1984.
That was the day I was going to just put it out randomly, but okay.
Well, okay, yeah, but it actually was. On the same day, something upwards from like 30 to 40, or maybe it was more in the 20s to 30s, kids were just spontaneously birthed, as in the moms weren't pregnant before, they were completely healthy, like no signs of being pregnant, and all of a sudden there's just babies out in the world.
Cool.
You have this rich multi-billionaire reaching out to all these families and adopting as many of these kids as he could. He ends up adopting 7. He takes them in as orphans and raises them as the Umbrella Academy, a school/house of superhero children, because all these kids evidently had superpowered abilities.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like a not X-Men.
It's like an X-Men. I'd say X-Men is the closest comparison.
Okay.
And I'm going to be talking a lot about episode 1 here, and in specific spoilery context because it's only the first episode, but then I'll ease up on the spoilers in a bit. The
comic has a very distinct art style.
Yeah. Don't know if I like it. Distinct is a good word. So I can go over the characters because I think they're really important, but the premise of the show, aside from that, is that several years later, all these characters are in their late 20s, early 30s, and they all get a letter and a message that their father has died, and they all have to get back together for his funeral. And the problem was their father was terrible, and they all do not like him, and they all drifted apart after their time as superheroes together. So they all have to meet back up after all this time has passed, and you get to see a bunch of character dynamics work off of each other, which is the best part of the show. The Umbrella Academy kids are as follow. Reginald, who is their father, didn't give them names, So they go by 1 through 7. That's just what he calls them. And luckily, their robot mother that he built to take care of them gave them proper names. So we got one who is Luther. Luther's superpower is being moderately super strength.
Okay.
It's kind of bullshit because like in the 3rd episode, Luther fights a guy who he's a large man, but he does not have superpowers. He's a trained like time assassin who is a prevalent character of the show, and he's able to physically fight Luther, whose power is super strength.
So he's just like a little bit stronger than a guy his build should be.
The thing about his build is Luther unfortunately is a half gorilla man.
Oh.
So let me it's really important I dig up a picture of Luther because words don't do justice.
Yeah, I'm looking at the comic version, but I think you said the show looks a little bit different.
Oh, it looks a lot different.
Okay, let's see what we got here.
Oh god.
Show me this lab.
Yeah, this is Luther. Wow, my Mac is so freaking slow. And his power is Tyler. If you have a picture there, just post it.
Yeah, I got you.
There you go. For your lovely reference, all of you at home can also Google Luther.
Okay.
He's
very different.
Large gorilla man. And the reason why he's a gorilla man is because his father had to experiment on him after a very harsh mission had him almost dead. He turns him into this larger gorilla. So not only is he massive, but also like he's only kind of strong, sort of.
Yeah. Knowing nothing about this series, I think this is one where I think I might like the comic version better. Of this
Really?
series. I think he looks a lot cooler in the comic.
What does he look like in the comics?
Looks badass.
Okay, number 2 is Diego. He is his power. It's definitely different in the comics. Apparently, his power was just to hold his breath infinitely.
Okay,
it's just not a great power. In the TV show, he has telekinesis when throwing knives, so he can throw knives with really sharp accuracy, and he can also he can bend knives as he's throwing them, so he kind of can throw them at weird trajectories. Which is like it's a not super common style of superpower, so I appreciate it a little bit more than just super strength. You got the 3rd character who is Allison. Her power is the coolest of the bunch, and she can control anyone or force them to take any action by saying, "I heard a rumor that blank," and then if you hear her say it, you have to do it. So they show off all the kids' powers in the 1st episode of when they were kids. So they're stopping a bank heist when they're like 12. And she goes up and she's like, "I heard a rumor that you put all the money down and you attacked all your friends." And then she just walks away and the bank robbers attack each other. You got number 4, who I believe number 4 is Klaus. Klaus is a drug addict whose power is to see the dead. And there's more components to his power, but he's a very fun character who's acted really well. He's got a great design. And I think a lot of people like Klaus. He has a lot of character development throughout the show as well. You got number 5, who...
her name is Abigail Lincoln, and she wears a red hat.
No, number 5 is a small boy who time travels and teleports through time. And 5 is interesting. He's not there in the beginning of the 1st episode. He only shows up at the end. 5 just disappeared one day when they were all 12. And he never showed up again until the show starts. So 5 shows back up, and he's still in the body of a 12-year-old, but he's been time traveling for like 80-plus years. So he has the mind of an 80-year-old and the body of a 12-year-old. And you think that would be cheesy, but it's acted really well.
Man.
Really shout outs to that actor.
I like this picture of the actor Tyler posted. He seems like he'd be a cool character.
He still has their Young Days Academy uniform on.
Exactly. Yeah, just from the character design you can tell. Above that is Klaus. Find a picture of Diego there. Diego's cool. Number 6 is Ben. The deal with Ben is that he's already dead by the time the show starts.
Okay.
Ben's power was to summon like an eldritch monster from his insides.
Oh fuck.
So just like tentacles would come out and just destroy everything.
Yeah, I was wondering. Like a lot of the comic book covers I saw only had 6 people on it.
Which I think it's really cool that one of them is just starts off dead. But if you will remember, Klaus's power is to see the dead. Unbeknownst to his entire family, Klaus is constantly communicating with Ben, and Ben's kind of like Klaus's closest. Even when they were growing up, they were the closest together.
Oh.
And Klaus, as his life is getting worse and worse because of his drug addiction, Ben is the only one that's there for him. And he's constantly trying to help him get better. And finally, we have number 7, Vanya. Vanya has no superpower, so she grew up in this family, and she was adopted because there was a high chance she would have a superpower because she was born when that big event happened where they were all just spontaneously born. And the deal with Vanya is that she was just always kind of the outcast of the family.
She got that bad luck with those.
She got that bad luck, and Reginald already treats the people with superpower bad. For example, to train Klaus, he locked them up in a mausoleum until he could conjure up more dead things and talk to them, and he would train them and be cold to them. He didn't even name them. Just all business kind of father. So you can imagine that Vanya didn't get any better treatment.
What an asshole.
And she wasn't special either. Oh, I mean, Tyler posted a creepy picture of her. Don't mind her eyes there. That's late series stuff.
Yeah, don't Google it if you don't want spoilers, because the only thing that come up are
Sir Dick Reginald.
Big spoiler. So those are your main casts. You got some other really relevant characters. You got Pogo, who is a chimp who has been their butler all along.
I was about to ask, like, in every single thing I see on Netflix, like the splash art for this show is just this chimp, and I'm like, where does the chimp come in?
So Pogo is great. Like, they all don't have great relationships with each other, but they all seem to really respect Pogo because Pogo and Grace, their robot mom, were the only support systems they had growing up. Unfortunately, Pogo is burdened by having to carry all of Reginald's secrets.
Ooh.
So that comes into play later on in the series as well. But I mean, it's no surprise because he was very loyal to Reginald. And then you have kind of the antagonists. You have Cha-Cha and Hazel. They are time assassins who travel back to make sure that the world ends, because that's the plot.
Okay.
In a week from the day that Reginald dies, the world ends, and Five comes back in time, and he's like, oh, by the way, the world's ending, and we gotta do something about it.
Well, damn.
All in all, just by describing all of these character personalities, the thing the show does best is they pair these characters up in different configurations so you can see them play off of each other. They got a lot of different things, like Luther is a total Boy Scout and has always been loyal to Reginald. Diego, like, he almost spits in his father's grave because he thinks his father was such a shitty man and he was not a good person worth mourning. Diego's a vigilante. You got Klaus, who is just barely holding on. He's stealing shit from his dad's library because, like, why not? You can buy him more drugs. Vanya is just kind of disconnected. Allison is really close to Luther. They kind of had a crush on each other. And, I mean, they're not really related, but they were raised together. So you got that, like, weird taboo going on.
So I'm looking at these time assassins in the comics.
They look awesome.
They look amazing in
the
comics.
So they put these masks on in the show as well. They don't look quite like this, but yeah. You can see above those two pictures of them in the comics, that's them in the show without the masks on. They're a weird group of enemies because they're simultaneously goofy but pretty effective at what they do. They very casually murder, but then they also squabble and kind of goof around. Very, like, they feel really human at the end of the day.
I like the comic masks better.
I mean, they could be more stylized at the end of the day. So, like I said, the strength of the shows is pitting these characters against each other. Not against each other, but putting them together in different configurations, and you get to see how they kind of interact with each other, and you learn a lot about their past and their present just based on how they can interact with each other. You got some really good plot lines involving their powers. For example, Allison, after their superhero days, she coasted through life by forcing her way into things. So because of her I heard a rumor power, she's a mega superstar actress. Because any time that things weren't going her way, she could manipulate the situation to make it go her way. And it gets really dark when you find out she had been using her power on her little daughter, which got her divorced with her husband. And potentially she used her power on certain people to make sure they love her, which all this paints her to be a terrible character. She's probably my favorite because she's trying to be better in the present day, and she's dealing with a lot of imposter syndrome because I feel like her power would be easy to snowball. You just make a little command here and there, and next thing you know, you've lived a whole life of lies. There is a weakness to the show. Sometimes the script's not the strongest. Sometimes the action's okay. I particularly don't like the finale, but there is a season 2 coming, so I'm excited to see more. Definitely really like the character interactions. Definitely like where certain character storylines go. Pretty excited to see season 2. I'd give this a solid 3.5. I could see it is a show where if you get annoyed at people being shitty people, where they're just kind of dumb and emotionally stunted, a lot of these characters are like that, but also deliberately because they didn't grow up very normally. So when they're repeating some of their father's very mistakes, it feels very intentional, but I could see it being very frustrating to some people.
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing about the show, the most interesting things about the show you described is how each person's power might have shaped their personality. I heard a rumor girl.
Yeah, there's a ton of that.
The time assassins just seem really cool.
Even a small detail, 5 traveled to the future. No human beings were alive when he was in the future. So he found a mannequin called Dolores, or he named her Dolores, and she kind of became his companion for all his time in the future.
Oh, man.
So when he goes back in time, he finds the Dolores doll and kind of starts dragging her around in his journeys. And it's just kind of sweet as a coping mechanism.
But it's also tragic.
Yeah, it's like Wilson from Castaway kind of thing.
You killed me.
Really good. That's all I really got. It's I think you guys would enjoy it. There's
it sounds like something I'd like.
Dumb moments here. It really sounds like a Bradley thing because it really explores these children upbringings, and I can't stress how interesting Reginald's relationship is with the children. It's very fascinating to watch.
Doing the spoiler free as much as possible since it just came out today.
No. Well, we're talking about Star Wars now. By the way, we are live again.
Oh, we are. Oh shit! Oh,
surprise!
Not only are we talking about Star Wars, we're talking about the new Star Wars,
the newest possible. I'm trying to figure out a way to do this.
We could do for the first half of this talk, do a spoiler free thing, and then give a warning when we're about to go into spoiler territory.
Yeah, and then I wonder what me and Bradley are gonna do. I want to watch it, but I also don't particularly care. I don't think. Should I care? So, is this a movie worth caring about spoiler wise?
There are some moments that. So no, I'm gonna start talking with my dissertation right here.
Yeah, I'll step away then for the spoiler talk.
We will say if there is a spoiler that if you care, it will, and you hear us say it, it will ruin the entire movie for you. So here's a warning.
Well, there you go. But for now, spoiler-free talk. Go.
Yeah. All right. C-3PO is Kylo Ren's mother.
Okay.
Yeah.
I always kind of thought
that makes sense.
Okay, so I think I'm the one person in this group that's an actual big Star Wars fan. Considering I went to Disney World on myself.
So you're gonna give us the official review.
Joe's not a Star Wars fan, not really.
I am a semi Star Wars fan. I every time I used to get sick as a kid, I would watch the original trilogy on VHS.
Oh,
and I think one of my favorite games of all time is actually Rebel Strike and Rogue Squadron.
Oh, Rogue Stars are so good.
I say Joe's not a true Star Wars fan because he's a reasonable, non-insane human being, and I think that disqualifies you from being a Star Wars
I
fan.
guess so.
Up until I was 20-something, all of my Star Wars knowledge came from Lego Star Wars.
That's fair.
Of course. I mean, Lego Star Wars is good.
It's a good fucking game.
So, how do I start this? So then this movie. So I always do a thing on Facebook whenever I see a movie, is I write my words to star review for it. And my review for it was fun.
Really?
So it's 3 words, so 3 stars. Makes sense.
That's a weird review. I never knew you did that. What the fuck? You hid that from us for so long.
Wait, so your review is going to have the number of words the number of stars you give it?
Correct.
So if it's like 1 star, you're just like, shit.
Basically.
What do you say for 5 stars? What, like, it was really good?
Damn.
I don't usually get off good things, but it's usually like can't think of one right now because I actually put some effort into them. But like,
I kind of love this idea. We should start doing this.
Yeah, but I always kind of do it. I don't tell anyone that I do it, but it's my way of like coping with myself and just telling people how I feel about things. I feel like I have to do it for Star Wars because everyone that knows me knows I'm a Star Wars boy. So, but anyways, yeah. So that's like my super simple review is it was fun. There was like only 1 or 2 things in the whole movie where I really went, oh, that's a concept that I didn't think about, and I really enjoyed that. There was one at the very end that it kind of made everything click in terms of like a character's motivation for something. Like, oh, that makes a lot of sense why they do this now. I just never thought of it that way, and I really liked it as like a Star Wars fan's lore thing. The big thing about this movie is its pacing and the fact that it feels like it was what J.J. Abrams wanted Episode 8 to be, and what he wanted this movie to be, and like shoved them together.
Ooh.
Because there's a point in the movie where I go like, that's supposed to be the climax of the last movie.
Yeah, I did hear.
That's interesting.
Like,
I
heard this is like an overly dense movie, like it's trying to do too much.
Yes.
After about the first 45 minutes, it kind of like gets rid of that a little bit.
It starts to slow down a bit.
Yeah,
but it's still like, it feels like it's making up lost time, which I thought was The Last Jedi's biggest weakness. Was it happens immediately after the Force Awakens, meaning there is no kind of like character development that kind of happens, because that's the biggest strength of Star Wars, is that you can go into each movie, with the exception of The Last Jedi, and assume there's been a time skip. So you know there is off-screen adventures that have happened, so you can reintroduce these characters of having a stronger relationship with each other, having more experience, and not have to show any of it.
Hey.
Which makes it really good when you're able to go from like Episode 4 to Episode 5, and they're in Hoth, and you don't have to explain why they're at Hoth. You can just think, oh, it's been years. They're here now. Han is like, I have to go now. I helped out as much as I can, but I've got a bounty on my head, so I have to leave. And you have all these motivations you can lay out beforehand.
Any other franchise, if you were like, all this character development happens between films, people would lose their minds. But because it's Star Wars, it's brilliant now.
I'm not saying like all of it has to happen, but the point being is that you can introduce characters. You can introduce a part of a character's life. We can assume that Luke, Leia, and Han have done other things, and it allows certain interactions to kind of be justified. Like, it doesn't mean they're changed. It just means that there's more room for like witty banter back and forth, and they get to know each other. They know each other a lot better now.
All that to say, you feel like that's been missing in this trilogy.
I felt just as confused starting at the beginning of Part 9 as I did probably when I watched Part 6 as a young child. So they did keep that consistent, you know.
But it's just, to me, like, the biggest thing is that this movie really compounds that part of The Last Jedi for me, where it's just like, oh, The Last Jedi, in the grand scheme of this whole trilogy, doesn't really land an impact except on like one or two things. You know,
That's shocking because that movie had so many final events that seemed important to the lore and to the story.
yeah.
But fuck it, JJ
You-
just sweeping it under.
There's a lot of it's a lot of just kind of like you could definitely take Last Jedi as like, oh, this was a side Last Jedi feels more like a Rogue One movie than it does an actual like episode movie in comparison to this movie.
Damn.
Because of the way that it like fits in between things. I still like Last Jedi. Like I'm one of the few people that like have a positive opinion on it.
Joe, hold on. People are gonna turn off this goddamn video. You're a pariah now. I also like Last Jedi. Minus, I say this to Joe a lot. If you take out the casino subplot of Last Jedi, that is a fun movie with some interesting takes on characters that were, let's say, lukewarm to me before. I know Joe would have different opinions there, but
this movie, I still think Kylo Ren's the best character in this whole entire trilogy.
Right? People shit on him because he has emotions. Oh.
Kylo Ren's great.
There's a scene in this movie that's probably the best scene in all of the entirety of the sequel trilogy.
Tell me this: is there some good Kylo Ren content in this film? Because I think
there is.
All right,
there is.
all right, I'm in.
And me and Tyler laugh. I'm like, that's great.
Great.
There was I asked Joe some stupid questions during this movie that kind of made him mad.
But not mad at Tyler, but mad at the people that made the movie.
Is that Baby Yoda?
No,
I didn't ask that. No.
God, I'm trying to think what else. So that's the biggest thing for this movie is the pacing and the way it just feels like J.J. Abrams took two movies, cut one of them in like half, and then shoved them together. Palpatine. I have
don't go too much into him. He's on the cover. He's on the poster.
Yeah, we know he's there somehow.
Yeah.
The journey of Palpatine.
I have really mixed feelings about this. But it relates back to taking the two movies and shoving them together, kind of thing. Because it could have been a good idea, but once again, The Last Jedi exists instead of the first half of this movie as a movie. Does that make sense?
J.J. Abrams did a little bit of retconning.
Yeah, and it's kind of frustrating.
Very explicit retconning. Like you said this, but actually this.
Yes.
No, I know exactly what that would mean then.
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible. If he did that,
you don't know what it means, but
I could take
there's
a
little
guess.
Bit. This movie's.
There's a plot point in episode 8 that everyone's like, "Oh, it meant nothing," and I was like, "That's so great," but I bet it's not so great anymore.
Oh man, all of those plot points,
Fuck.
I love.
Oh, I'm already angry.
Something that isn't spoiler because it's already been discussed in interviews is the relationship between Poe and Finn.
No.
They gay or what? What's going on?
I wish.
They said in the interviews they wish that was explored more. You can see hints of it in this movie.
Oh, but they're like non-committal hints then.
There's a scene in the opening with them where they're playing galactic chess against Chewie on the Falcon, and it's the two of them versus him, and they're going back and forth against Chewie, and it's great. It's so fun.
Sorry. Oh, there's the way they argue with each other. They sound like a couple.
Yeah.
There are moments in the movie where Finn, there's this ongoing joke in the movie where Finn keeps asking Poe, how do you know how to do that? And it's oh, how do you know how to do that? And it's this, you imagine when you're in a relationship with somebody and they keep surprising you with these things because you think that you know them. And it's oh, I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
And
they're a really fun dynamic.
They're great.
We're going more into the positive sections of this now. C-3PO had some of the best lines in this movie in terms of comedy.
I find this hard to believe.
No. C-3PO saves this movie.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. Maybe it'll turn me around on him.
Like I said before, there was an interesting concept that was introduced at the end that explained a lot of motivation of the character that I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I don't know why I never thought about it that way. there's a force power that was used that I'm happy that kind of got used finally.
Should
I
should people watch The Mandalorian before watching this?
don't give a shit.
Okay. There you go, folks.
Yeah, either one's fine. The ending scene gets a solid 75% good, 25% bad to me, mainly because I guess what the last line was, and I was like, okay, whatever. But at the same time, I thought it was very cathartic for the whole like Skywalker saga kind of thing.
You know, Finn, I guess we were the Skywalkers all along.
What else? Once again, like I said, Kylo Ren has probably the best scene in the entirety of the sequel trilogy, and it's not an action scene or anything. It's an actual like character moment, and I really liked it like a lot. The only problem there is that it was supposed to be different in a very small way, but it couldn't because of real world circumstance. But I'll get to that later probably. Let's see what else.
We've gone 12 minutes in the spoiler free, so if you want to wrap up the spoiler free, and then you can go.
So I think here's the thing: if you didn't like The Last Jedi, and you wanted all your fan fiction things to come true, you'll enjoy this movie. If you like The Last Jedi and you like everything being kind of, God, what's the name called? When you turn it on its head,
Subversion.
Yes, thank you. You subverted your expectations. I literally guessed every scene as soon as it came onto the screen. Like I knew exactly what happened from which isn't necessarily a bad thing all the time, but I literally sat there like, you're gonna say this, you're gonna say this, you're gonna say this, you're gonna do this.
That seems like I think that would be a bad IMO.
Probably is bad for a lot of people, but I was just kind of like, I already know what this movie's gonna be. I just need to be entertained. One negative I felt though was the action is probably the weakest in this of all three movies.
Yeah,
it's pretty weak. It's pretty boring in some places. In a lot of places, actually, it's not nearly it.
The Last Jedi, which is the 8th one, right? That's
yeah.
8th.
Yeah.
That one is definitely probably top tier action. I would think.
The forest scene in The Force Awakens, where it's Finn and Rey versus Kylo in the forest. That is visually striking, well choreographed, just feels emotional.
I agree.
But hey, that's a bad movie because it's just A New Hope again, so what do I fucking do?
I liked this trilogy, and I am a very casual Star Wars fan. Like, I don't care about the lore all that much. Like, when I found out what Rogue One was, I was like, oh, this is neat. And then I started watching it, and I was like, oh, man, all these characters are great. Why aren't they in any other Star Wars movies?
Like, I should watch Rogue One. That's one of them I haven't seen.
Yeah, of all the new Star Wars movies, Rogue One's the one I enjoyed most.
I thought you didn't even watch the other ones.
I watched, what was episode 7 called?
The Force Awakens.
Yeah, I watched that, and then I watched some of the Han Solo thing.
That one's fine. That one's for the boys.
Yeah, I enjoyed Rogue One though.
Solo is the forgettable Star Wars movie because I even forget about it. Like I literally was on Netflix and I saw Solo on there. I was like, oh, I forgot this was a movie.
Let's roll into spoiler sections. I'll go stand over there, and you guys can.
You probably don't care.
For people listening who don't want to do the spoiler section, we have timestamps in the video description, so you can just skip to the next segment if you need to avoid spoilers.
Cool. Call me or like start waving into the camera when you guys are done.
Right. Just start waving, and Willer's gonna be like, "What's going on?"
And then Rey died.
Oh, fun fact! This is the first time we're using our webcams during recording.
And then Rey died for real.
Oh, she did actually.
Oh fuck!
Spoiler. There you go. There's the spoiler.
Hey, we gave our spoiler section warning.
Oh, okay. Bradley, do you care about anything?
You're a moderator then.
I'm fine with spoilers.
Okay. So in this movie, Palpatine is reintroduced.
Okay.
And I like having Bradley here as someone who hasn't seen it because it just lets me summarize things and kind of
like this is me watching the movie.
Yeah.
He's not gonna go see it now.
Great, actually, Bradley, go. Let me tell you the summary of it.
Okay.
And then go see it with Willer, and before you go to see it with Willer, write down your predictions and give it to him.
Oh god. Oh no. That'd be diabolical.
Anyways, okay, so Palpatine's alive. It turns out that Palpatine has been engineering the First Order since the beginning of Episode 7. He manufactured Snoke, like... Can you hear us, Willer? No? Okay. He manufactured Snoke, like, he literally, like, made clones of him and had them go out in the world and gave him, and controlled him as a puppet, basically, through the dark side of the Force. Which is a cool idea, but it needs to be introduced earlier in that.
Yeah, so
trilogy.
Palpatine is, like, still the big bad.
Yes. He's basically kept alive through cloning technology and just other kind of dark side.
Wait, and so they didn't reintroduce the fact that he's still alive until this movie?
Yes.
They reintroduced it in part 8, didn't
No,
they?
didn't.
So they actually didn't like that. Like I thought that was like the entire point of that was like there was.
Nope.
It said at the very beginning there was a recording across the galaxy that Palpatine.
That's part of the whole crawl. Is that's just the crawl is introducing. Do you understand why now? That's the big flaw in Episode 8 now. Is
I forgot, and I was just like,
Yeah,
oh
thing.
wow.
Episode 8 doesn't matter now in the terms of the grand scheme of the story, which is a big problem now, in my opinion. But for some people, it's. But let's move forward. So Kylo is now. Kylo now finds Palpatine. Palpatine's like, look, listen, I got a whole brand new army for you, filled with Death Star guns. Every ship has a Death Star gun on it, which is like, okay, that's a little bit different. But all you have to do is kill Rey. That's all I ask. And Kylo's like, all right. The one thing that does carry over from The Last Jedi to this is their kind of bond that they develop over the course of Episode 8, which is very good. Still one of the best part of that whole kind of sequence. And so the whole A-plot for our heroes is basically they have to find a Sith artifact called a Wayfinder because it's the only way to get to this planet that Palpatine is on, and they have to kill Palpatine in order to stop the Sith from leaving.
They're about to blitzkrieg the galaxy, basically.
Yeah,
It's like the army is called the Last Order.
Yeah, which I thought was the Final Order, but which is whatever. It's a dumb bullshit name, but I like it, so I don't care.
Yeah.
So along the way, a lot of things happen. Adventure happens. It turns out that Rey is Palpatine's granddaughter. What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the way it's revealed though. Like, I was kind of sitting there, and I look over to Joe. I'm like, that's illegal, right?
Yeah, I was always sitting here. I thought she was gonna be like related to the Skywalkers in some way.
No. So like, there's this moment where her and Kylo Ren are like Chewie gets arrested on this desert planet, and he's captured by stormtroopers, and Rey and Kylo are like force pulling / pushing this transport ship that has Chewie on it.
It's a really cool scene.
It is. They're like standing apart. It's in the middle. It's like building up. They're grunting at each other. It's like the camera's getting closer on the faces, and like out of nowhere, lightning comes out of her hands, and I'm just
blows up the transport.
Yeah, it blows up the transport that Chewie's on,
But
and Chewie's dead
for 5 minutes, and then turns out there was another transport that he was actually on.
he was the finest mind of his generation.
Truly was, but yeah,
But
I was
that's cool, but it's a cool scene because it's like she starts to get really angry at the fact that she can't do this and taps into the dark side, and it comes out as lightning, which is really cool. Great foreshadowing. It's just that whole plot point is rushed because it's supposed to be the climax of the movie before it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that gets revealed. They go to the planet that the Wayward is on, which is actually another moon in Endor. By the way, Endor is not the planet that the Thing was on in the last movie. It's the gas giant that the moon is going around. Does that make sense?
Okay.
I mean, I'm the one who saw it. Sure.
Okay. Basically, there are other moons of Endor, which is why they were on a big, kind of island water planet rather than a forest planet.
Ah, okay. Gotcha.
Because I know that people will be very confused on that because they don't listen. Don't listen slash. It's just a fucking technicality that no one cares about. So they go there, and Ray finds the Wayfinder, and then Kylo confronts her again. They fight. Ray stabs Kylo in a moment of weakness because Leia sacrifices her life to reach out to him one last time. To try
Leia dies?
With the Force.
Yes.
What?
Yep. She dies. But as Kylo's dying, Ray realizes she's made a mistake and heals him using the Force.
Which is highlighted earlier in the movie when they're looking for the Sith Wayfinder. There's this big serpent thing that's injured for some reason, and she heals it, so it like knocks away out of this underground cave they're locked in.
Yeah, she heals it and like runs away, but she heals Kylo, and in the movie she mentions very briefly, and it's a very offhanded comment, that she takes her Force life energy and puts it into the person. So it drains her a little bit whenever she does it. People are going to ignore when they complain about this movie. I can understand why you would ignore it, because it's literally a single line. There's no really visual repercussions that are seen in the movie for doing it. So heals him and steals Kylo's ship, and with Kylo's ship, she flies off. Kylo then has a moment where he gets visited by Han Solo. Like, Harrison Ford comes back and does one last scene with Kylo Ren, but it's very obvious that the scene was supposed to be Leia, but Carrie Fisher died. So they couldn't do the scene, which is really sad.
Oh, that makes sense. But it's weird though, because she was in the movie still.
Yeah, I don't know how they did that. That was really
very well done.
Yeah, it was. But that scene's the best scene in the movie because it mirrors the scene in The Force Awakens where they're standing on the bridge. And he's just like, I have to do something. I don't know if I can do it. Han's like, you can do it. And he actually like does it and throws away his lightsaber, his like red lightsaber.
He gives Kylo the high ground in that moment.
Yeah, he does, actually. So Rey flies off. She goes back to the plane that she trained on in episode 8. She talks to Luke for a little bit, and Luke's like, don't be a pussy. Go fight Palpatine. And it's revealed that Leia had her own lightsaber, which was hidden on that planet. And this is like number one for me that blows my mind as a visual, like as someone who consumes movies and knows and like understands visual storytelling. Leia's lightsaber is blue.
No, it's green in the flashback.
That was Luke's. That was Luke's.
What? Okay, I was so confused. I was like, there's a green and a blue lightsaber in the flashback. Whose lightsaber is she using? And whose is like, I was like, where's the green lightsaber?
Right. It's especially done for the last scene because it would have been so much better to have a little bit more color in that scene too.
I was like, seriously though, whose lightsaber has Rey been using the entire time? Because I thought it was Luke's.
It is Luke's.
Why is it on green?
Okay, so it's Anakin's lightsaber from episode 3, which got passed on to Luke, which Luke lost in 5, and then Luke made his own in 6. But then this gets rediscovered in 7, and then given to Rey in 7, and she uses it in 8, and so forth.
Okay.
It's kind of like a weird Excalibur kind of thing. Anyways, it just made me really frustrated when we're introducing another lightsaber that's Leia's, who we've never seen use. Rather than make it a whole different color, hell, make it purple or green. I don't care. We make it blue again, which blows my mind. Yeah. As someone that's like as a way to like just introducing more colors into like your environment. So she gets that lightsaber, and Luke's like, "You got to take both lightsabers because you're going to need them." And she uses Luke's X-wing to go to the planet of Palpatine's on. She leads the path for the Resistance to follow her, so they can go in and invade and try to wipe out the planet, the Star Destroyers that can blow up planets. You following along, Bradley, so far?
I got you.
Okay, so she gets there, and Palpatine's in this big kind of like claw thing that's like puppeteering him around and stuff. This is
He looks like GLaDOS from Portal.
He does. I actually really dug it. I thought it was like a spider chair thing. The fact that he's like, "Well, are you okay?"
What the fuck was that?
I think that was Willer.
Willard died.
All right.
um, but he's in like this claw thing, like GLaDOS is in Portal, which I thought was really cool. But she ends up on the ground, and Palpatine reveals that the way the Sith operate is that whenever you kill the Master of the Sith out of hatred or anger or whatever, all the Sith before them possess you, which is why everyone keeps falling to the dark side when they do that.
Yeah,
Which is,
they reveal that there's Avatar logic.
yeah. So like basically, the Master of the Sith is every Sith before them, and they want their apprentice to kill them because it means they live on literally within that apprentice, and it passes down that way. Which I thought was a great way of doing that because it represents the two different factors of the Jedi and the Sith war, where the Jedi move on to become one with the Force, whereas the Sith coalesce in power and become one thing together. I'm like, that's a neat concept. That's a great way of doing that. I thought that was really cool. So the whole plot of the movie was Palpatine wanted Rey to actually like kill her or someone to kill him out of anger because it allows him to be reborn again within this person.
But
she's like, no, I have a boyfriend. And
I don't understand. Like, so before we get into that,
yeah.
There's a little bit because the same thing apparently happens with the Jedi with the Sith, like that he is all the Sith, and it comes to reveal that.
Or that one seems more like kind of a representation thing, and more of a like the Sith seem more of like a possession and kind of like we're shoving everyone into one body kind of thing, whereas the light side of the Force is more of like you are the representation of all of us on the light side, and because we are the light side in the more balanced part of the Force, we can help you in some way. It's a sense of freedom, if that makes sense.
Because there's a moment at the beginning of the movie where Rey is meditating and she's trying to enter the Avatar state.
Basically, yeah.
And she's like, I'm trying to access all of the Jedi before me. And she's like, be with me. And they're like, oh, they're not with me. And she's like, I can't access the Jedi.
Yeah. That seems like something that was from that first movie, between these two that was supposed to be there, but wasn't ever introduced.
So with Rey being like, this is a question I had. And this just, I didn't understand. Is like, how is Rey the granddaughter of Palpatine? That means one of the parents, like we see her parents in a flashback at one point.
Correct. The son was the father was the son of Palpatine.
Yeah, but when?
Are you asking
when?
Palpatine? I don't know.
Like he's been in this underground deep planet recovering this entire time after the Death Star blew up. Like,
yeah.
Who? What? When? Like, how did this son get off the planet? Why did he procreate? Like, what is going on?
I mean, I imagine he had a son when he was the emperor of the Galactic Empire, and then his son was like, "You're fucking Hitler," and left, and went and got married, and then had a kid. And Palpatine, after he died, probably put failsafe in of like, "Go find this kid and bring him to me so they can kill me one day."
Yeah, but this is Palpatine. Like, we see how strong he is by the end of this movie, and I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah.
How does this nobody son escape his clutches? Like, what?
That's his son. He's the son of himself. So,
and why does
Palpatine? It doesn't matter.
It does matter. It does matter. It confused me so much.
It doesn't escape because he gets shanked by the weird alien dude with the weird eyes. That didn't bother me that much. But so we get to the end of the movie. Turns out that Rey and Kylo's link is a lot more powerful than we realize, and it's known as a diode in the Force. Palpatine literally drains their power to revive himself fully, so he's back to being his old like, oh, I am now the Emperor again.
Yeah, because
they
both have the power to heal.
Yeah, and he takes Kylo, throws him down the hole like Darth Vader did to him. Like he literally says that I'm doing this because Darth Vader literally did this to me 20 years ago. And then tries to electrocute Rey. Rey uses both lightsabers and the power of all the Jedi that came before him, and we get this kind of neat fan service scene where we have every actor that was a yes. Can you get out?
Did you like the new Star Wars movie?
Yes, get out.
We'll be editing that out.
I know. So there's a moment where every on-screen actor that was ever a Jedi in the series, the voice line during this scene, and basically just encourages her to fight Palpatine, and she reflects on the lightning back and kills Palpatine, and then she dies. Turns out Kylo's alive, climbs back up, uses Force Heal on her, and then he dies. But because he's through redemption, he ends up ascending into the Force, like Obi-Wan and Luke Skywalker and so forth.
I had the question during this movie, Bradley, because Luke, like, we see different people from the afterlife show up in this movie.
Yeah.
Because apparently everybody can just do it whenever they fucking feel like it. Because Han Solo shows up.
And he says, you must go to the Dagobah system.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then Luke shows up, but Luke has a silhouette. He unlocked some special achievement character glow for the afterlife. And I'm like, are there different heavens? Like, is there a Jedi heaven and a normal person heaven?
The Han Solo thing was more of like Kylo just kind of realizing that he did the wrong thing when he had this moment with his father beforehand, and it was like recreating it in his mind. It was more like a mental like thing in his head than it was an actual like ghost appearing, whereas Luke showing up was an actual ghost appearing kind of thing. Because you are right.
That's what I thought it had to be, is like that was in his own head.
Yeah, it's still a good moment though, because it shows it allows a way for a character to like come to his full development.
Yeah, Kylo Ren's great.
Yeah, Driver does a great job.
Yeah.
So we get to the end of the movie. Rey goes and visits Tatooine to Luke's old farmstead. Where
Full circle.
Full circle. She buries Luke's and Leia's lightsaber in the sand. That's kind of like the grave site. What?
Continue.
Okay. Reveals her own lightsaber, which is neat.
Yeah, it's yellow.
Yeah.
What is this yellow? Okay, so you made a lightsaber at Disney World. We talked about this.
Yeah.
But they use a crystal inside of it that like harnesses the power of their like Force essence.
Yeah. So this is like pulling from old lore.
It means she needs to drink more water.
That's what I thought.
So basically what happens is when you go and make your lightsaber, you go to this planet called Ilum, which might be destroyed now. I don't know. But you go to this place where there's kyber crystals and they're naturally formed. And the Force kind of directs you to where your crystal is. In the old days of like SWORD and whatever, your crystal color determined basically what kind of Jedi you were meant to be. So a blue crystal was supposed to be a guardian, the more like attacker is the wrong word, but like combat oriented Jedi, someone that's there for the people and protects the people and is there in the front lines. The green was more of the counselor kind of Jedi, which is there to negotiate, being more force sensitive and kind of being there as like a medium between the Force and the people and like everything else was happening around them. And then there was the Sentinels, which were kind of like which were the yellow crystals, which were very much like making sure that order through the Jedi, maintaining peace and order throughout the Jedi Order, and that there's not corruption within, basically, and as well as being kind of like your defenders of the galaxy, more or less, of just being of your moral defenders than anything else.
That's cool, because Rey is adopted into the Force.
Yeah.
She is a Palpatine, but she really like inherently she's a nobody, just like her parents were, and they really drive that home in this movie. Is like, your parents were nobody, you're just a scavenger, and it's like that's who she is, you know. And I think at the very end of the movie, like this old lady on some tauntaun shows up or whatever, and then like this weird camel, and she's like, "Oh, nobody's visited this place in forever."
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, and she goes, "I'm Rey." And earlier in the movie, there's this moment where this little alien child, she's like, "What's your family name?" And she's like, "It's just Rey." And at the very end, like, Luke and Leia are like standing there, like Leia unlocked the ghost silhouette because she had a lightsaber though. So like let's note that first. She unlocked that character effects. And they're standing there like creepily adoption parents, like just nodding at her, like say it, bitch.
With that, yeah, she ends up adopting the name Skywalker, and that's kind of the end of the movie. It ends with the twin sons setting, like first movie with Luke looking out, nice scene and all that. Credits roll.
So it's weird. So we glossed over one moment where Kylo Ren heals Rey.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, and then right, like how you heal people with the Force is you give them your life force. Both of them were like, Rey died, Kylo's obviously on the brink of death, but he heals her and they're both alive for just a moment together. They kiss in this weird embrace because she knows him has been he's been Solo. Yeah, he is now Ben. He's no longer Kylo Ren. And I was like, at first I was like a little bit weirded out, but at the same time I'm like, no, they've been like forced teasing each other like the entire trilogy, and they do have this really weird bond.
You could say it's forced sexual tension.
Yeah, but at the end of the movie, after she like adopts the name Skywalker, all I could think of was, "Step bro, what are you doing using your force healing on me?" And I was just like, that makes them step siblings.
Weird. I also kind of didn't like that he didn't show up in that family moment with Luke and Leia, which is like
why? Like, yeah, I'm like, why Luke and Leia? Like, we got Ben, we got Obi. No, we got Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Yoda at the end of part 6.
Yeah.
Like, give us more people. There's more dead people now.
But yeah. Anyways, Bradley, I hope you enjoyed your viewing of Star Wars: Rise of the Skywalker.
I can now win Star Wars trivia, and I know everything.
I am not done ranting yet.
Okay, I can't wait. I have one really nerd rage moment, and
the cinematography in this movie is great. I loved it. There were great shots throughout the entire movie. There's this one moment when they're on the moon of Endor, and the Death Star has crashed into this ocean planet, and she like climbs through this, and there's like the old throne of Palpatine there, and there's this door off to the left of it, and it opens automatically for her, and it's this flashback to part 6.
It's like the scene in part 5 where Luke faces himself in Dagobah.
Yeah, I didn't remember if it was part 5 or 6, but anyway, they have this flashback to part 5 where it gets really dark and Luke turns around and you just see that glint of his face right there. And they did it again, and Rey turns around after the door closes. It's pitch black. You know it's pitch black in this room, but she turns around and you just see that little highlight of her face.
It was a good scene.
I enjoyed it a lot. Also, they still kept using puppets in this movie, which is like the Mandalorian is using the Yoda puppet and everything. And that's nice to not see it's all CGI. Obviously, like there are points where it's so CGI you can't tell. Like Leia, like there's this point where Leia and Rey hug in the movie, and I'm like, how did they do that? That's way too good.
They say it's like they had like leftover footage from Last Jedi, but I don't know where, like, because she blends so well into the background, because that's usually the biggest takeaways you can tell, like when someone's like cut into the background.
Yeah, and
you can tell
there's a lot of back shots of Leia too, so it's like obviously this is just a stand-in actor for the footage they didn't have. But like the moment with Rey and Kylo fighting over the transport ship, the ending shot on Tatooine is the flashback to the intro to
New Hope. Yeah.
Man, like that, just seeing that ending shot alone, I was like, you know, I would rewatch these again and not be mad.
I would put this movie on the background and be able to be okay with it playing and not get frustrated like I do with episodes 1 and 2. like my bare minimum is you have to be above the Sith line, the Revenge of the Sith line, If your movie ever falls below that line, you fucked up. That's my opinion.
That line, actually, I think Joe and I both established that line is Solo.
Yeah,
And if you're
basically.
below that line, that's the Sith line.
Yeah,
Above it is. I enjoyed it more as a trilogy now that it's complete.
yeah. Once again, it's I mean, I enjoyed it. Once again, I think if that first half was its own movie, people would enjoy it a lot more. I want to rant about one thing, and it's something really dumb and bullshit. But I'm ranting about it. So in the scene where Rey goes and gets the Exegol, which is the dark side planet, she uses Luke's X-wing, which is supposed to be a throwback to, the original trilogy.
Mhm.
But in order for her to get that, she ends up stealing Kylo's TIE fighter, and Kylo doesn't have a TIE fighter, and so he has to use a different one. When he arrives in a regular ass TIE fighter, which is bullshit because they don't have hyperdrives at all in the series.
Oh.
And it kind of made me get really upset because that's like nerd knowledge 101 for Star Wars. So that TIE fighters can't operate.
That's really in depth because I thought you were gonna say, where did he get the TIE fighter? Because at first I was wondering, I was like, where did he get it?
No, I can believe he can conjure up a TIE fighter, like he has something standby. But the fact of the matter that it wasn't because a better example would have been if he used Darth Vader's TIE Advance from New Hope that has an actual hyperdrive. And would make sense because he's supposed to be the Darth Vader fan. I don't know. It was just something that that made me actually bust the literal vein in my nerd head for a hot second.
He got the TIE fighter from the moon on Endor because when
but that's the problem is it doesn't have a hyperdrive, which is what you need to get to there. That's the whole point.
They probably had bunch of hyperdrives just lying around that Death Star,
Hyperdrives are literally as big as a fucking TIE fighter. Anyways, I'm done. That's what. Anyways, official review: Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker it was fun.
The official review is TIE fighters don't have hyperdrives.
Yes. Okay. Bradley, what'd you think?
I give it a 2.5 out of 5.
I guess we'll text Willer.
Yeah, he's playing video games back there.
Yeah.
So I have a question, Joe.
Yes.
Had they just shown him showing up on the planet and not what ship he got on there on, would that have been better?
I could at least chalk it up to he got back with the First Order and he just came down with them. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, you guys had some fun for 45 minutes.
Yeah,
sorry.
We did too. We heard you back there.
It was recording, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I kept. If you're ever wondering why you saw me come up periodically, I was just moving the mouse, making sure nothing went to sleep.
We told Bradley basically the entire summary of the movie.
Well,
Yeah,
Bradley,
no,
what's your score?
I mean, I give it a 2.5 out of 5. I don't really have feelings one way or the other.
Not a lot of visual representation.
There were some parts that they told me something that happened, and I was like, oh shit, all right.
Yeah.
Neat.
We skipped the part in the movie that me and Joe also decided, if you had to go to the bathroom during this one part, that would be.
Oh yeah.
Is it just me or is Tyler quiet as fuck?
Yeah, Tyler, you got more quiet.
You're quiet all of a sudden.
Oh, just now? Because
Yeah,
my
near the end.
microphone's still right here.
Let me end this segment. Because we're
Never
still
know. This is
recording.
what people
Alright.
can do.
One of these days I'll figure it out.
Well, good, Joe. You spoke right as we were starting. All right, hey, welcome back. Joe just can't shut his mouth as we're about to start. We're doing One Piece now.
We are back with the coolest fucking segment on Roundabout Cast. Don't give it up, Bradley.
Dreamin'. Chapter 276, volume 29, I believe.
This is volume 30.
Oh my
And,
god.
the cover for volume 30 looks so fucking cool with Luffy posing and Kami behind him, ready to smite. It's so cool. And I have to say, as we go forward in One Piece, characters' abs just keep getting more and more pronounced.
You got a problem, Bradley?
It's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. But we open up this volume, and before we even talk about the fucking chapter, the chapter cover story is already on some real shit. Because this is Ace's Great Search for Blackbeard, Volume 4. And the 3 before this, I think, didn't call it his search for Blackbeard. It was just like, oh, a new cover story. So as soon as I saw this, I was like, okay, hold on. Like, the cover stories are already good, and they're already, like, relevant to the world in some way. But this is Ace, who is, like, one of the coolest characters ever. And yeah, and he's searching for Blackbeard, so I'm like, this cover story is going to be some real shit. Probably.
It goes places.
So it's really cool. We love Ace. Rip Dr. Blackbeard.
We here at the Roundabout Cast love Ace. You heard it.
Yeah. And man, those abs.
Controversial opinion.
So yeah, we go into chapter 276, Shandy and Rhythm. At the where we left off last time, Wiper hit Kami with his reject dial, and after using the Sea Prism Stone, and there was a brief moment where I was foolish enough to think like, oh, this might be okay. And then it all goes to shit, and Neru shocks Wiper, and he really just starts fucking everybody up with these cool like animals made out of lightning. It looks badass. And
let me get a small interruption here because I thought there was a really good comment that went along with that.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Where are you at? Thornray says, Skypeia is seriously so good. I still think it's story-wise the best written saga, though who knows, that'll change in the future, which I hope. I do have problems when it comes to execution in some moments, but overall it doesn't affect the overall story. And he brings up all the cool religious references, such as Wiper the Demon, which we talked about a lot last time, how Wiper just is a demon of rage when it comes to fighting Eneru and getting back to his homeland. And he's an angel who rejects gods. That has to be a Lucifer references. And stuff like Ganfall being the good nature god, pretty much the New Testament, while Eneru is the bad nature one from the Old Testament. I like the detail that both of these gods lack wings despite being from the Sky Islands themselves. The lack of wings really separates them visually from the regular angels. That was such a good comment, and it fits nicely with what we were talking about last time when it comes to this arc, but we just couldn't connect those pieces, which is why I love when you guys leave sweet comments like that.
Yeah, that's a really cool comment because, like talking about the religious imagery last time, like with the Kami and the apples, that was like one of my favorite things we talked about in that volume. So getting this comment that expanded even further than we did, I thought was just so cool.
Back to your regular scheduled Eneru ass beating.
Yeah, this is Eneru just fucking everyone up, and he hits Zoro with this giant Electro Wolf, and I was like these are like the kind of attacks where even though like I know obviously he's not gonna die here, for a brief moment my brain is just like, fuck, he's done. Like, fuck, like he's dead. Like, that's gotta be it.
Yeah, like you at least know he's in severe pain.
Yeah, like I've never he's taken huge attacks, but I've never like seen his like body and face in that much pain up to this in the story up to this point.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So he dispatches pretty much all of them very easily. And he basically turns to Nami near the end of this chapter, and he's just like, so he doesn't even say anything. He just kind of looks at her and just like, oh, I'll go with you. I'll go with you. And like the way he responds, it's really just kind of jovial, and it just kind of reinforces what we were talking about before, where he is a psychopath, but it's not just like, I'm just gonna fucking kill everybody just for no reason. He's like, earlier he told her like, you are welcome to come to this new world I'm going to.
They were all welcome before they challenged him.
Yeah, it's like if they're cooperative, he's still willing to take them. So he's like a very consistently psychotic person, and that is so cool.
Yeah.
And then this chapter ends with Conus reaching Angel Island. She's about to begin letting everyone know about the Kami's plan. It's very scary. Chapter 277, cover story. I just love the cover stories, guys.
They're great.
By the way, this moment in the question corner, if people are familiar with Panda Man, who Oda likes to hide in the story all over the place, on the poneglyph back in Alabasta, there's the cryptic writing, but within one of the panels with the poneglyph, he slipped in the words Panda Man in Japanese in the writing somewhere. And I don't know, it's just Oda's just cool that he does all these little
If
gimmicks.
if Panda Man becomes a real thing, I'm going to freak out. Like
That'd be
if
badass.
he becomes like a very plot relevant character that's been following the Straw Hats all along,
He got One Piece
people would
first.
lose it. And he's called Pan D Man.
Dude with a D in the name. I still don't know what like the power of D is yet, but that's just such a cool thread to me.
It's something. It's there.
Um, Ace gets thrown in a river. We're gonna find out what that's about later. So we open up this next chapter. Not Inero's kind of taking Nami to his ship, the Ark Maxim, and this is really cool that like it so Ineru like took all of the gold that was here, and it's really cool because aside from gold being valuable, like I can't remember if either silver or gold is supposed to be like the best conductor.
Gold, I believe I've heard several
Yeah.
times. This
Like it serves a practical purpose too for like his ultimate ship vessel.
and we see him utilizing gold very early, like within this fight that's coming up that starts this chapter. So yeah, it's cool how this valuable gold for humans and for the Shandians to Eneru, it just serves being a very good tool to get him to his plan.
Yeah, it's so cool that it goes beyond just like the arbitrary I want all this gold. It's also like it's extremely useful to him specifically.
And we talked about religious references, more Christian style with Lucifer and Old Testament, New Testament.
An arc.
Eneru's and this arc, right? But Eneru's design with the drums, there's like this really big, like I guess Buddhist style face, like Shinto kind of style face on the ship. It's got a really big kanji that probably says Kami on it. So I like this blending of Eastern and Western religious allegories in this arc.
Yeah. I like the idea that he has made this arc that he was willing to take people on to like his new world, and in boarding this arc he was going to like destroy his world, which is Skypeia, which the story of Noah and the ark.
Damn, that's
The
good.
world gets
Yeah,
destroyed while they stay on the ark.
never pieced that one together. I wonder if Joe died, by the way.
I don't know.
Okay, all right.
So that's just so cool. Then we cut over to Luffy, who is making his way out of the giant snake with Isa, right?
Yeah, this little panel of them opening the snake's eyes. It's like it's the whole page. It's just this gag.
Yeah, I
It's
thought it was
pretty
funny, and also I was like, ugh, inside an eyeball. Luffy finds his friend Zoro, is very distraught about it, and he kind of gets info from Robin about where the others go. So we've been pointing out anytime Robin uses someone's title rather than their name. So I'm going to keep pointing those out when we get to it. And later on in this volume, there's a stretch of like 3 pages where she does this repeatedly, and she even does it for characters we haven't seen up to that point.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll talk about that when we get to it. Of course, Luffy, when he finds out like what's going on with the Kami, he's like, okay, well, obviously I'm going to go fight him. So,
Oh boy, here we go.
yeah.
We got-
So, real shit. Port Gazdi Ace gets found by Milk Girl.
Milk Girl, Miruku.
Marnie.
She's very cool. I wonder what's going to happen to her.
I wonder.
Chapter 278, Conus. It opens up on the Arc Maxim. Nero kind of detailing his plan to Nami, who is like, what the hell do I do? Because if I don't go with him, he's gonna fuck me up, and if I do go with him, I'll never get away.
She's playing this pretty smart, all things considered.
Yeah.
A very important here, he explains why his mantra is so strong. He combines this innate ability of mantra with his electrical abilities to kind of have this wide range, omnipotent on the entire island style mantra. He extends it with electrical waves, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. Shortly after that, we cut back to Conus on Angel Island. She gets there ready to warn everybody, and it's kind of she's really badass with like her bazooka.
Yeah.
And this is such a cool chapter because we finally cash in on stuff that we suspected about the inhabitants of Angel Island all along, where like you kind of wonder, do they really have this reverence for the kami, or have they just kind of been scared of him this whole time? And basically whenever she shows up, they're all in their mode like, oh, you shouldn't say bad stuff about the kami. Like they're still pretending to have like respect and reverence for him, but as soon as they even like slightly start thinking she might be telling the truth, they do a hard switch into, oh fuck, we got to get off the island, fuck the kami mode, you know? Like
fuck the kami. There's a notable moment here where a little kid is asking, why would the kami do that? Isn't the kami supposed to protect us? But the mom is freaking out right next to the kid.
yeah, it's like she knows.
Yeah, because she knows she was likely alive when Enru took over, but this kid grew up in this fake society where like, oh, the kami's so great. So all he knows is this life where he has to revere the kami, but the mom has been living this lie and she knows that it's terrifying.
Yeah, and the way that they verify she's telling the truth just like further reinforces how monstrous the kami has been, because she's like saying people have probably said even worse things about the kami, and all these people are like, oh, he's gonna smite you for this, and like and he doesn't, and she says like, oh, obviously he wouldn't smite me if this plan was real. But it's like the fact that everybody was so certain she was about to get smited just shows that like throughout their lives he kills people for like nothing, like barely anything against him, he'll smite people. And so they're like, the only way he wouldn't have just immediately smited this girl who is like shitting on his name is if he actually did have some plan and he just didn't need to smite people anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I thought this was a cool chapter because we've talked so much about like how we think their society has been shaped by the kami being a douchebag. So
that's an understatement.
Yeah, it was cool. Shortly after that, we cut back to the arc maxim. Luffy Luffy confronts the kami to end the chapter, and this is such a cool fucking panel where he says, "What did you do to my crew?" Because Luffy is the goddamn captain, and this is just him being the goddamn captain. He's like, "What did you do to my crew?"
Which pieces of garbage are you referring to? Luffy's look here with the tattered clothes because of the snake acid looks really cool.
Dude, he just looks like the man.
He is the man.
Chapter 279, Ace Awakens. It's really cool.
Oh shit, Kami hole, baby.
Chapter 279. This is the coolest shit. There's more instances of like we kind of jump back into Angel Island, and it was really cool because something was revealed about the white berets like a page after I had the thought, which just makes me think that Oda's very good at like making you think what he wants you to think. Where now that we've learned this stuff about Kami, I was like, oh, I wonder if like the white berets are they only enforce the Kami's will because they want to protect their fellow countrymen. And then like the page after I had that thought, he confirms it exactly.
Yeah, that's a nice turn on them. I ended up really liking the white berets by the end.
So I don't know. Whenever like something happens in a story right around the time I'm thinking it, that's just like I give points to the narrative for that. I'm just like, you did a good job.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the White Berets are cool, and everyone's going to kind of start working together to evacuate the island. And then we cut back to Luffy about to fight the Kami, and y'all, this is the coolest fucking fight. Like, I always kind of, as soon as I learned the Kami had zippy zap powers, I was like, it was the rumble fruit. Shut up.
I didn't say nothing.
I was always like, Luffy's rubber. I wonder if he's gonna be immune, or I wonder if we're even gonna get to see that. Because I'm like, oh, I don't know. Maybe it'll be like, maybe when we finally get to the big fight with the Kami, like they'll let one of the Shandians do the big fight. Luffy is fighting Eneru, and for like he starts getting hit with attacks, and everyone who's present isn't entirely clear what's going on at first. Where they're like, I guess he dodged the attack, and Nami's like, no, he didn't.
Even Luffy is kind of like, oh, I guess that works.
Yeah, and some of Eneru's attacks here are super cool.
Lightning Dragon.
And we get like one of the coolest like panels in the story where the Kami is just like shitting himself. He's just like, ah!
It's this face is legendary.
Yeah, it's funny. There's this giant it's a full page of the Kami yelling.
It's such a just as a page turn, just think about this. You just turn the page and then an entire page is Eneru making this smug asshole who has been dominating everyone is just making this horrified face.
Yeah. What is the master of the page turn?
Yeah, for sure.
So this is even better on the iPad because when you have a book, like you can, like you have a two spread basically, so you have some distractions when we have that kind of thing. When you're using the iPad vertically, it just shows you that one page, so it just turned the page and it's literally just the thing.
If you're using the iPad vertically, you're doing it wrong. Use it horizontal. Joe, first of all, this is on the right-hand side, so whenever you do the page turn, there's no distraction. It's just the first thing there.
If it's horizontal, wouldn't you have to like zoom in because the page would look smaller?
No,
it's big enough. It's like the same size as reading it on a manga page.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? I guess the volume itself is like the size of my iPad. Well, you know what? Let me see here.
Go check it, because I'm a horizontal boy through and through, because it's kind of designed to be read that way.
The volume spread out is like the size of my iPad, so I guess it is.
That's cool. That's fine.
But,
Anywho, this face is god tier. It's been an emoji in our friend group Discord server. We have a Discord server with like, thanks to Tyler, who has kept our entire college friend group together through this Discord. It's got this emote there, and Bradley never pieced it together until right before he got to this chapter, where I used the emote. He's like, "Oh, I just noticed it's called Kami Hole."
And we've had this emote since like
since the beginning. It was like the first emote.
The first one I ever requested because I was reading One Piece. I'm like, oh my god, I need it.
It's so good. It's remember this face.
Yeah, remember this face. Remember this ham. Teeth in One Piece.
But yeah, this was just like a real, like even just the title of the chapter was cool. Captain Luffy versus Kami and Eru. I was like, okay, we got some real shit going on here, and I was like, wow, we got here really fast. Of course, the true fight hasn't really started.
I want to bring attention to the wording of Luffy being the natural enemy.
Yeah.
This idea of this is a phrasing that'll come up later, and I won't say any more. It's just a very, very good phrasing to keep in mind that Luffy was the natural enemy of Eneru.
Yeah, and like I view it not just as, you know, his devil fruit power counters the Kamis, but also just like on a fundamental level who they are as people. They're just like natural enemies.
Yeah.
Right on.
It's very cool.
Man, we got some hot foreshadowing on the middle panel on the right-hand side of this last spread.
I mean, don't point it out, doofus.
We turn the page. The question corner right before chapter 280 had a fun question. I've talked about I've pointed out, I think, in one or two question corners before, where sometimes a reader will ask Oda kind of like a question that might be uncomfortable, and like Oda will answer it simultaneously in a mature way, but also without breaking his character. So this person's like, how come all the women in One Piece have huge breasts? There's more to women than just big breasts. And Sanji answers the question like, of course, there's more to a person than that. What matters to a person is in their heart. And then Oda gets to stay in character. He's like, hey, look, Nami's wearing a swimsuit, and Sanji's like, oh. But I don't know. I like that where like he can answer the question truthfully through his characters, and then Oda's like playing up the no boobs are great.
Boobs though.
Boobs though. I don't know. His question corners are fun. So the cover story on chapter 280, Ace is talking to the dairy lass Moda. And she's holding a little envelope, and I was like, oh, is this like a love confession? Because who wouldn't confess their love to Ace? I think in reality, she just wants him to deliver this letter.
I want end of series Ace to be married to this milk girl.
Yes, I'm very much like,
Wouldn't that be cute?
That'd be very fun.
Guess we'll see in like 7 years.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he'll be married to me instead. So we go to the next chapter. And this chapter was so cool because we got to the Luffy versus Eneru fight relatively like quicker than I thought we would. And we get into it and it's like, oh, Luffy's like the perfect counter. He's the natural enemy. But I like that it's not that simple where after like these surface level attacks that the Kami obviously was not even really trying with, he's like, oh, I have to actually think. And once he like actually starts trying, this becomes a very difficult fight because his power is useful for so much more than just like
raw damage.
It is very cool because like we think about all these levels. He has his mantra, which is like he's fully aware of everything going on within a radius around him. His power, which while he might not be able to shock Luffy, he can still move around ridiculously quickly.
Yeah, he has teleportation essentially with how fast he is.
Yeah, and I think his like whatever he calls it, this like forge attack where he molds the metal is really cool because this is like an actual real technique that is used where they run electricity through metal to melt it down and reshape it.
Hey, that's cool. I didn't know they used electricity for that.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I was just like him traveling through the gold. You imagine him traveling through gold is effortless because gold is such a good conductor for him. So he's able to just zap up the walls as Luffy is running up them.
Yeah.
So a lot of this chapter is just kind of demonstrating those moves that I talked about, but they're really, really fucking cool.
I really like Luffy's ingenuity in this, like using when he's getting knocked down, he throws his feet up as he's flying downwards to do that gum axe.
Look, that spear,
dude.
Mind you, oh, he does do X.
Gum axe.
The spear was before. Luffy is very kinetic, whereas he's like jumping around and dodging. And since the beginning, he's really good at throwing attacks while also being defensive. It's like. It's nothing mind-blowing. It's no JoJo 4D chess, but it's just energetic and fun to watch.
Yeah.
The end of this chapter ends with like a discussion of like a king of pirates. Like, what kingdom does that control?
Yeah, and you realize that Eneru, like this entire premise of One Piece, Eneru might not even know what the fuck Luffy's talking about.
Eneru doesn't know about Gold Roger, I don't think. Like, that's crazy to think about. I never thought about that.
Been in the air, right?
I mean, he must have. I mean, that was 20 years ago, Joe.
He came from another floating island, right?
He came from another floating island, so he was never a blue sea person.
Okay, yeah.
And while
I never flew his little island.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's a spoiler.
No, it's what the white berets say that it's
okay.
destroyed.
Never mind. It's not a spoiler.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. I guess before we move on to this chapter, I just gotta say, like, it's always a joy to see Gum Gum Battle Axe. It's such like a simple move, but it's so cool.
I like that move a lot. It brings me back to the emotions you feel at the end of the Arlong fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like such a simple thing that was really fun is when Luffy uses Gum Gum Gatling. where it's like his ora ora ora. It's fun. We've seen this move many times, but like even though we could have like reasonably, even though like we knew this just kind of reminds us that while it looks like there's a lot of fists, it is in fact still just two fists. So
And
he's able to like effortlessly disable the attack.
yeah, if your opponent has, say, predictive powers like Enaru with his mantra, he can kind of feel it out. He can
Yeah.
just grab your arms, and suddenly you're not an Aura Aura anymore.
I just
Between
feel like
chapters, we have a chart of the different devil fruits, and I'm glad I have you guys because I was fucking tripping where it calls paramecia fruits paramythia, and I was like, am I okay? I was like,
No, Bradley, you're not okay.
and this is I don't know, it's fun to be reminded of all the fruits we've seen, and then I don't know, I look at the 4 fruits in the Logia type category, and I'm like, god damn, Logia OP.
Logia genuinely like OP. It's
Yeah.
it's well known.
So, chapter 281, cover story. Ace is going to deliver this letter. That's cool. I don't know what
that's
to say.
cool.
Death Pia. This chapter's called Death Pia.
That's just a badass name.
A little bit on the nose, but okay.
That's just a cool name.
That's the name of Enaru's genius plan, he says.
Yeah. And this is yeah. I forgot that is like actually the name of his plan. He probably thinks he's really cool.
He's a clever boy.
Yeah. He begins releasing his lightning clouds, and unleashing like these lightning strikes all over Skypeia, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Luffy has a really fun strategy in this fight where he's like, oh, you know, since I'm like thinking too hard and telegraphing these attacks, obviously he's going to be able to, you know, dodge them or disable them. So Luffy's like, I just have to be unpredictable. I just have to space out. And Luffy goes actually Ultra Instinct here.
Literally, before it was cool.
Yeah, and it's really working. And we're like, oh, this is how he defeats Kami and Eru. And then he's like, well, since I'm not thinking, I can't attack either. And Nami's like, god damn it.
There's some clear manga flow juice that I want to talk about.
Yeah, do it.
All right, let's all jump to page 10. It has Luffy doing like a kick to Enaru's arm.
Okay.
So Enaru stabs in a direction that when your eye follows it, Luffy's kick comes in that same direction.
Yeah.
And then you get like the nice little turn in which he blocks the counterattack. Then on the next page, you get Enaru doing consecutive stabs, and it just looks really cool how Luffy's parrying them with his arms. And you get that motion from right to left as he's parrying them. He does his Ultra Instinct move, and then I want to jump to the page right before he does fireworks. He's shooting out all his fists, and Enaru is running through them. This would be on page 16 and 17. He's running through the fists, and then they start closing in on him. But then the next panel is like an expanding motion, so it's got this cool flow of like the fists and kicks closing in on him, and then you read the next panel and they're exploding out like the fireworks. Just really fun to read.
Fireworks is such a cool looking move.
Gets nailed by the bazooka and the rifle. Rifle's also a really cool move.
I really enjoyed this chapter because the same day I read this chapter, I watched a episode of Miraculous Ladybug where they did a very similar strategy. This guy, he like views the ground as like a disco floor, and all the squares like light up red, yellow, or green based on where opponents are going to be in the future. So they're like, oh, we just get a bunch of people and be very unpredictable, so he can't tell which square goes to which person. So I don't know. That's me plugging Miraculous Ladybug.
Let's take a quick break because your podcast host has to go to the bathroom.
Hey, that's a good idea.
Actually, you guys should just talk real quick. I don't know. Have fun.
Okay, Bradley. Let's keep going. Desire. Ace is on a boat. We made it to G2 Naval Head Base. I feel like this
he's going to a freaking Grand Line naval base. By the way, this isn't like the bitch navy from like the East Blue or nothing. Like this is some real shit navy base. This is like I just remember early in the story where we hear like all of the actually like good people in the Navy are in the Grand Line because that's where like the actual are.
Like people that are competent and able to like get shit done.
Yeah, and we're gonna see over the next few like cover story chapters that he like really casually infiltrates this base and is just kind of doing what he wants.
Yeah.
Which is really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 282 though, Desire. This has been like a really, dare I say, even fight between Luffy and Eneru. It's kind of going back and forth between them getting the upper hand. Where now Luffy kind of has his like unpredictable strategies, but Eneru is about to turn the tide. The chapter opens up with him getting a clean ass hit on Eneru.
Yeah, the end of the rifle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the whole time this fight's going on, we're still spewing out lightning clouds. So Death Pia is still a go. Eneru this chapter, this is so cool. Like he makes a giant golden ball on Luffy's arm, which is going to drag him off the boat. And this was funny because anytime there's anything with gold in a story, I like to calculate it just because gold is like top 5 elements for me. And I love gold because of how fucking heavy it is. So
welcome to game theory.
Welcome to game theory. I was calculating it, and I don't view this as canon at all because it doesn't really matter. I just wanted to do it. Later in the volume when Luffy's carrying this gold ball, it has to at least be like 200,000 pounds.
No
like,
big deal.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just thought that was fun. One Piece rules are probably different. I don't know, but it's fun.
Maybe the inside is hollow.
Maybe the inside's hollow.
Or maybe he's just that strong.
But I want to see Luffy squash an Eneru with a big gold ball. So the ship is flying. Clouds are clouding. So Luffy's off the boat now. And I left a sticky note on this page.
What page is it?
It's at the end of chapter 282, where the Kami's like, there's a lot of things I want to do and a lot of things I want, but if I have to leave those... Oh, no, this is Nami saying it. This is cool. Basically, she's berating the Kami for kind of his values, where he's valuing like his position of power above all else, where he's sacrificing literally everything for what he's achieving here. And she just has this speech against him where she's like, if, you know, there's a lot of things I want. And it's like, she says, what's the fun of getting everything you desire if you're all by yourself? And like, it's a very common thing for Nami to say or do. Like, oh, we're going to go do this dangerous thing because I like money. Or I don't know, like if she's like if she's bantering back and forth with like Zoro or Sanji, she's like, oh, fuck you, I like money more. But at the end of the day, she's good-hearted. Yeah, like at the end of the day, she really does care about people and her friends more than she cares about the money. I like the very slight squiggles on her eyes as she's saying it, like she's holding back tears, and she can hardly believe that she's gonna be this brave at this moment. Yeah, man, we love our girl. We do. The cover story for chapter 283 is Ace, and like we said a minute ago, this is so cool because this is a Grand Line Navy base, and he like very casually is like, oh, I'm just gonna fucking infiltrate the base and just do what I want. So he's so cool. Then we're like, oh yeah, it's been a while since we saw what Sanji and Usopp were doing, because they were passed the fuck out because
fair enough,
Kami one-shotted them earlier. But Sanji is able to spot Nami on the boat, so of course they're gonna go save her. And this is Nami buying time up on the boat while Sanji and Usopp come to her rescue. And this is really cool because whenever we see her reach for her climate baton, we realize that because of the totally unrelated events of Alabasta, she actually does have some means to defend herself against the Kami, which it's just cool how well this story flows. Like,
yeah,
if she never got the climate baton, obviously she either would not have been able to defend herself against the kami, or we would have had to introduce something like right here, right now, so she could defend herself. But it's like, oh no, she always has the climate baton on her. It's just cool.
It's nothing major, but like I feel like a lesser story would have glossed over the fact that Nami has a tool that could at least parry some attacks from Eneru, and that would be a cool moment of her holding her own for even just a little bit. But I'm glad that Oda capitalized on that.
Yeah. It's really cool. The rest of this chapter is kind of jumping around, showing evacuation efforts, showing Luffy and Isa getting ready to make their way back to the battle, and Nami defending herself.
Big hero Usopp saying sorry after he attacks Eneru. It's such a pathetic little sorry. He's like,
it's kind of amazing how simultaneously cowardly and really fucking brave Usopp is, because like I'm not gonna like Usopp comparatively has some giant balls. Like he will.
Usopp's a bitch who is 10 times way cooler than any of us could ever be.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like a lot of the stuff he does, like I would just never do it because I'm too much of a bitch to do that. Usopp will do it, but then he's like, no, I'm actually a bitch. Don't hurt me. It's just funny. And it's funny because he attacks Eneru and he says sorry, and then the next chapter is called Sorry.
That's pretty good.
So this is like a really fun moment of Nami and Usopp, who are I guess like combat wise they're the weakest on the crew.
Yeah, Oda has gone on record to say they'll probably be consistently the weakest because that's kind of their role in a way.
And they kind of have to defend themselves. It's really cool.
Which is great. They're doing pretty good. Eneru is not trying very much because he knows he's got this in the bag, but I think they're doing pretty decent.
Yeah. I put a sticky on this page where... Oh no, I know why I put a sticky. I put a sticky on the page where Usopp gets like smacked in the face and Nami's riding towards him on the waiver.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had this funny thought where I was like, oh, Usopp's like the tank of the Straw Hat because he's always tanking these terrible attacks.
He can take. I mean, tanking a slap to the face is less impressive than say a 4-ton bat, but it's all right.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. Sometimes he's like taking these hits while we wait for Sanji or Luffy to come save the day.
It's I like Usopp's attack here of trying to mentally destroy Eneru by saying a needle gets stuck deep beneath your fingernail, and it gets to Nami.
Yeah, Nami's like, oh no, that hurt.
A paper cut between your fingers. It's really fun.
Yeah, I was just like, he was saying that, and I was like, oh, Usopp, just stop. It's not gonna work. And then Nami's like, oh no, please. I was like, oh, all right.
It's a great attempt.
Oda's a funny man. As this chapter goes on, it gets pretty much as dire as possible, and then Sanji shows up. He looks like a badass. He gets like grazed by the lightning, and he's like, I was just thinking how I wanted a light.
I don't think that's being grazed. I think the lightning hit him dead on.
Oh shit, did it really?
Yeah, he kicks Usopp out of the way. He's in the middle. If you look at the ground of the panel before that page, the ground is charred where he's standing.
Oh, so yeah, he's just a badass.
Yeah, he just fucking speaking of tanks.
Yeah, he's a fucking beast.
This is one of the most badass moments in One Piece for me.
Well, this reminds me for a moment that comes later.
Yes, Joe. Yes. Yes.
I don't like people are standing. It intimidates me.
We move on to chapter 285, Capriccio.
You're not gonna talk about Oda drawing the Straw Hats with his goddamn mouth?
They are. You should do the rest of One Piece like that.
They're way better than I could draw.
No, the Zoro one's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I saw the Zoro one, and I was like, he actually didn't do that bad. We get to chapter 285, Capriccio, and I looked up the definition for this word, and I remember thinking that it was like a really fitting name for this chapter, but I can't remember why because I don't remember the definition.
Bradley. Oh, Bradley, I was gonna say and I forgot. Have you considered maybe writing a small, like, couple word note on your sticky notes, perhaps?
I should do that because probably like 2 out of 10 sticky notes I'll get to it, and I'm like, why the fuck did I put this here?
A capriccio is a lively piece of music, typically one that is short and free in form. Been a lot of musical arc names here.
Yeah. I don't remember my reasoning for why that fits so well, but just take my word for it. It's good.
Maybe it'll come back to you. Maybe it should have been on a sticky note. Oh.
You're right. Oh, okay. So in this next chapter, we get to see Robin a few times. We love her.
Yeah.
There's a stretch of a few pages where she repeatedly is talking about her teammates. Like she says, I wonder what happened to the Navigator and the others, which we've seen her refer to Nami as the Navigator before. She also does this on the next page, or when I turn the page, for Usopp and Sanji. She calls them Long Nose and Mr. Cook.
Mr. Cook.
I find it funny how everyone else is like their job and Usopp is Long Nose.
Usopp's job is worthless.
I think that's for later, but
yeah, like her saying this is just like giving me more points of data because I want to, like, I'm really waiting for like the time when she calls the next person by their actual name.
You know what's cool? I don't remember. So what if Oda just drops the ball here and it's just like it just kind of happens in a nonchalant time? We're like, oh, I guess she's doing it now. I don't remember.
No, he's too galaxy.
I know when it happens.
Okay, Joe knows.
Okay. The next page, Luffy's like running up the beanstalk with the giant gold ball, and it looks fucking badass. I want him to just wreck someone with it.
The stamina on this boy.
The Angel Island inhabitants are evacuating. Kami and Eru's Death Pia is starting, and these are like just the best lightning bolts. Good job, Eru.
The best. I have the best lightning bolts.
Yeah, and he says time to start the feast. Which didn't he use the word feast earlier this volume?
Possibly. I didn't keep an eye out for it actually.
And we get a coloring page this volume, which is fun. And interestingly enough, I think this is the first volume where they don't advertise Dragon Ball at the back of it.
Nice.
They don't advertise any other Jump manga. I can't tell you guys what to buy this week.
Woo! Buy One Piece, motherfuckers.
This entire volume was pretty much a banger. Just like based on the cover alone, I was like, this is going to be awesome.
Bradley, the next volume. Just looking at the cover of the next volume should speak volumes to we're about to take a very cool left turn.
Yeah, I looked at the cover of the next volume and I was like, what the fuck is going on here? So,
there's some characters there that you're like, who the fuck are these?
yeah, so I'm like, I have no idea what's in store.
No predictions? Nothing?
Well, this guy with he has like red Super Saiyan 3 hair, and he looks like Wiper, kind of, so I don't know what's happening.
Interesting.
Oh, this is going to be good. Bradley, do you have any predictions on... Enru keeps talking about this promised land. What the fuck is he talking about?
Yeah, so it's interesting. He wants to go back. He talked about going back to where he came from, Endless Vars, but his homeland was destroyed, right?
I don't know if he uses the word where he came from. He says the land of where gods belong, or something along those lines.
Belongs there. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. If you don't got nothing, because I didn't have anything until like we learned more about Enru, basically.
Yeah. Without thinking about it too much, I think it would be really cool if either a Shandian like gets the final blow on an Eru, or they at least play a very pivotal part in his defeat, just because like this is everything to them. So I'm predicting. Hopefully,
I can't wait.
I really hope that either Wiper or Isa play a very good role in an Eru's defeat, especially Isa, because she has like, I think she's the only other person with mantra comparable to his. So I don't know. Maybe she could be the new Kami.
I'm just gonna say it's better than you could ever imagine. So
I'm
whatever.
sure it is.
It's fucking the best.
Isa's gonna be the new Kami. 60% sure.
All right, cool.
Okay. That's One Piece.
That's it. I really hope that. So we're about to have. You have 2 volumes on you, right?
I do, and we're about to go into the holidays.
So it would be really cool if, because those 2 volumes finish Skypeia. So maybe.
Also, like, have you finished 33? Also,
Did I hand it to you?
I have 31 and 32. If you,
I can do 33 this weekend, and I can give you all 3.
yeah, if you give me all 3, that'll be cool. I just noticed that so it says like the overarching story arc names on these volumes. We're on Skypeia. It looks like 32 is titled Water 7, which I is like borderline the best shit ever. So
Joe, we're almost there.
very
We're
excited.
almost to the point where Bradley has to admit that One Piece is his favorite manga.
Like I'm already borderline. It's already
Rejoice.
my favorite
God.
manga. So
Water 7 is probably gonna be the arc that I read along with you, Bradley.
yeah,
Just because the first part of it's gonna be rough, but I say rough with like a very soft like rough. It's not that bad, but it's just kind of like a
The
what
first,
happened?
the
Yeah,
first part of it is godlike. Joe be tripping out here. Whatever.
whatever. Anyways, but it's my favorite saga.
Hey Tyler,
So,
say a word.
say anything.
Word.
Nice. We
Alright.
all made it, gang. We all said a thing. Joe, you said you had a hypothetical to close us out here.
All right. So here's the deal. We make a clone of you, but it's a baby you. Like it's you as an infant, like 0 days old, 0 hours, and you have to raise it. How do you raise it differently?
I train it like the
Oh.
wolf trains Ringing Bell in the movie Ringing Bell. He's eventually going to kill me.
Well, no, it's the. Oh yes. Oh my God, that's dark.
I raise it by not showering it with praise and telling them that they're smart and special.
I'd raise it by giving it a stable income, and leaving it in America. That was an
pay your-
important part.
You're gonna pay your child? That's child
No.
labor, Willer.
They'll just have it easier. They won't have to drive clunkers that will explode on them.
Do you think you could raise yourself like at all?
I am super easy to raise, dude. My entire existence is trying to make sure my parents don't have to worry about me. So I'm pretty sure I'd be pretty good to raise.
I would be really hard to raise up until like freshman or junior year of high school.
Ooh. Now, child Willer, that's different. That was a fucking
That's the thing.
Satan
You have to
child.
go through all stages of life.
So I'd make sure that child Willer doesn't pee on people and go to the bars with his dad and just hang out and come back home.
But Will, those are the best stories. You and your shitty Pokemon Blue version and everything.
Yeah, I would give Willer a real Pokemon Crystal, not that Vietnamese one where water gun is translated to fluid and sand attack is translated to loud. Loud. Joe, you have an answer.
Yeah, what's little Joe gonna get?
Oh God. The first thing would be, I would try to figure out a way to like get me to eat more things somehow. I don't know how I would do it, but it'd be like the one thing.
You are a bit of a food bitch.
I am a food bitch. Been getting a lot better lately.
That's good.
But I would definitely get to like try to branch out and try different things. I would also, I feel like, be more involved in in my little self's hobbies and what they actually want to do, and kind of, the last thing I would want them to feel is feel reluctant about their interests and what they find cool.
Yeah.
I always felt like as a kid, like it's like I can't like. It's not cool to play video games or to play with little men, so I can't talk about it around my family. And the thing, like, I would try to like avoid that at all possible.
I think you're cool, Joe.
Tyler, would you still give yourself your Game Boy so you could play while you're at your brother's baseball games?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I was an easy child to raise. My parents gave me a Game Boy and a game, and I didn't really care what the game was most of the time. I just sat there and played the crap out of it.
Yeah. I think we
and-
were alike.
I kept to my devices. I ran around and didn't get lost, except for that one time at Disney.
Oh no.
All the time.
I was scared of strangers,
Perfect.
and
Fuck 'em.
as a teenager, I was even easier to raise because I was a very introverted, pretentious teenager. I had lots of extracurricular activities in school, so I was at school from our school started at 7 a.m., which was the worst. And then I didn't leave school until 8 p.m.
Why? Was it because of your theater?
Yeah, because I did track after school, so my track practice was from 3 to 5 o'clock. No, 3 to 4:30. Let's do that. I would go get some Sonic or McDonald's, which this is the time when I achieved my 26 days in a row at McDonald's.
Damn.
The legendary pilgrimage of Tyler.
God, Tyler.
Fun fact,
Tyler Nirvana.
I only weigh 165 pounds. I did not go through some tragic weight loss. I just ran a lot.
Yeah, you were a runner boy.
But yeah, I would go run, and then I would do theater from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And it was during that time, during high school, I never went to I came from such a small town. I didn't even know there were high school parties where people drank and smoked weed at and cigarettes. I had no idea because even if
those parties, I just knew I was not at them.
Yeah, I didn't know people were even at them. And honestly, I didn't want to go either. I wanted to go home, watch Netflix, and play Call of Duty and play MapleStory.
I just want to play Halo Reach.
That's all I wanted to do, and I cared about track way too much. So it's oh, if you smoke cigarettes, you're gonna be really bad at running. You're gonna be a bad athlete. If you drink, you're gonna be stupid. And I was I care about my classes.
You're gonna suck at cross country, bitch.
Yeah, that was my thought. So I didn't do any of those things.
We seem oddly similar. I had very much middle child syndrome, where I was the least. I guess the positive part of middle child syndrome, where it's the least attention I'm getting, the better. Mm-hmm. So my parents were just we could just, he'll figure it out.
I would definitely, another thing would be, would introduce myself to the idea of different avenues of employment, and really, because when I was in high school, my brain was just I have to be a doctor or something prestigious, job. It never clicked to my brain. It's someone has to run Disney World, or someone has to make a video game. There's the idea of people actually make the world go around, not just the people that you kind of see in front of you. Someone's always behind something else doing something, and just opening up the idea to that, rather than be oh, doctors are cool, and yeah. But hey, that's just life, man.
Bradley, you got anything else besides being raised as a wolf after we've bored our souls out to you?
Everyone knows everything about us now.
Oh, there's more to know, I'm sure.
Let's dox Tyler's school so everyone can go vandalize it.
Also, I wouldn't harass you whenever I talk to a girl. That's another thing that kind of made me kind of fucked up. Also, I wouldn't rent a shitty Barney for my first year birthday. Make me terrified of costumed people.
Your parents harassed you when you talked to girls?
Whenever I was ever in the vicinity of a girl, I got teased and mocked about.
Oh,
yeah, and I was just it never made me comfortable to be around a female ever.
My parents are extreme in the opposite direction, where anytime I ever talk to a girl, it's have kids with her right now.
They're now kiss.
But that's the idea. It's you should ask her out and go on a date. And I was just I literally just need her to help me with that school project. Please leave me alone.
If I was my parents, I'd marry someone taller so I could be not as short. There you go. I think that's a good point to end this one.
Hey, weren't you gonna say ask a question? Was I supposed to ask a question, or
we were that's for next time potentially.
No, this is good. Basically, I want us to have more free form, just discussions, because I think we have fun. But we don't have topics always, so I want people to email us at theroundaboutcast@gmail.com and send us just random stuff to talk about, because I think that'd be fun.
Yeah,
I think we're good.
Around girls.
Ask me and Bradley what to order. We'll have a discussion on what you order when you get fast food.
Yo, I never, every day at work, it takes me fucking forever to decide what I want for lunch that day. I used to get Thundercloud every day for lunch, and then
Yes.
now I just don't know what the fuck I want to eat. So tell me what to eat for lunch.
I have to eat Jimmy John's most of the time because I'm very limited on what's close to where I work.
Get those free smells.
It's either Jimmy John's or Firehouse. There's like a Taco Cabo place nearby.
Taco Cabana.
No, not that one.
Velvet Taco.
In, Jersey Mike's, that's a good ass sandwich.
Jersey Mike's is
Jersey
good.
Mike's is good.
Wait, hold on. Are we still podcasting or are we done?
We're still live. Fuck it.
This is a call.
So, okay, when it comes to sandwiches, I really enjoy Potbellies.
I've had Potbellies back when we all worked together at that one place. And there was a Potbellies nearby. It was it was pretty good.
I liked Potbellies. I liked their chicken sandwich. Like,
Oh man, I love their chicken sandwich. That's what I get every time.
yeah,
Tyler, making the chicken
it's a
sandwich.
good sandwich.
What's the 411 on Subway? Like, are we haters?
No.
Are we...
No, Subway's awful.
Subway is
Do
like
Do not eat Subway.
bottom
I'm not-
fucking tier sandwich place.
I'm not gonna fight you, but I also get it a lot because one, it's not a super unhealthy option.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Okay, no.
Get
this is
wheat
a study-
bread, fucker.
This is a study that came out not too long ago. I read it, and it's like, it was like Subway had a study done because they claimed they had the best chicken out there. And it was like, we
I
use
get the
most
chicken,
real
and it's
chicken.
definitely not.
No, like they sent it to a lab. Everybody's chicken is like 80, low 80 percentile. Someone was like, one person was in the 92% or something of like how real the chicken is. Subway's was 49%.
No,
Even
it
McDonald's
can't
and
be.
Wendy's and Taco Bell were like up there.
I always get the chicken. Stop.
No, do not eat at Subway. You have better
No.
choices at Taco Bell and McDonald's.
It's not about. I mean, okay, it's fake chicken, but the caloric intake. All right, I try to watch my eating here. It's better than me. Like, what else is close? Like there's a sushi place, a halal place, a pizza place, and Wendy's.
Like,
so
don't
it's
get me wrong.
like,
I will eat a Subway sandwich, but if there's like literally any other sandwich place within 5 miles, I'm gonna go there instead.
don't get. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Like,
I just
let's
eat
call a
chicken
spade a spade.
sandwiches. Like not enough places do chicken sandwiches. It makes me
Yeah,
upset.
chicken's great.
Chicken's good.
Thundercloud does chicken sandwich.
Another health tip, if you're a good fan of McDonald's, hey, I love McDonald's as much as the next guy. Don't order their French fries. They're delicious, but that's where you're killing yourself right there.
No, yeah,
Cut
French
the French fries.
McDonald's French fries are delicious, but they're also like pure salt.
They are cocaine.
Here's Joe's health tip: don't eat McDonald's. That's about it.
Nope.
But sometimes you just have to feel shitty about yourself.
Get a large diet Coke.
Eat at McDonald's.
Oh.
I will. If I'm road tripping with Tyler and we stop at McDonald's, I'm gonna get a large Coke and that's it. And then we're gonna drive away.
Oh, you're doing so much better for yourself getting a large Coke.
I can't drink Coke now that we're not at
I'd
Disney
rather
anymore.
starve and die.
Oh,
than eat
Disney
McDonald's.
Coke, that was real. All right, we're jumping from too many topics here. I guess we should close
Yeah,
it.
you guys still have Jojolion. This is gonna be a long ass podcast.
Oh God, I'm gonna go make dinner.
No, yeah, you guys are free. Goodbye,
I'm-
Bradley. Goodbye, Tyler.
I can talk about Jojolion with y'all if y'all want me to.
I do not want you here, Tyler, because you're a fake stan who read chapter 89, and that's the only Jojolion you've ever read.
Wait, what chapter is it on now? 91?
We're on 93.
Oh, okay. So I do need to catch up a little bit.
Catch up, fuck off.
I'm gonna play some fucking League of Legends.
Yeah, you
Oh,
guys
yeah,
go
that's
have fun. Yeah, go play League. Me and Joe got love making to do.
Oh.
Later, bitch.
Bradley, it's time to talk about Arc 25.
And man, this is kind of like our arc that's about to transition us into Arc 26, obviously. This is like transitioning us into like the end game of the story.
And
Hold on.
what a transition it is, because I got really hyped near the end of this arc. And there's already a lot of hype moments in it. God, man. I feel like from 25 onwards, at least as far as I've gone, or like even some of last arc, like I feel like Wild Bow is just on fire. He might be at his best. I thought arc 17 was hard to top, but like this stretch is just on another level. And I think it's hitting on those levels that I said where it's like, oh, so much is connecting. But okay. We're gonna go kind of chronologically here on this one.
Okay.
Taylor's in her tribunal. I think notably there's a part where she says like, maybe the system doesn't need to be fixed. Maybe we just need to move on and like live with things. I think she's talking to her dad. And her dad is just talking about how the system can be fixed and things can go back the way they were. She's like, maybe things are better being changed. I just think this is kind of reflective on the back to it, on the way that ever since arc 22, things just didn't really. Taylor never really got the punishment for actions, and now it's like I never got punished for it. I'm at a good spot with my dad. I have confessed to him that I've murdered people, but he's still by my side. So things have kind of turned out okay for her, and she's okay keeping them like that. And it just goes to her mindset where it's like, I'm kind of fucked up, and the system is kind of fucked up, but I mean, I'm a part of it, and I can kind of make it work. It's hard to explain my feelings towards this line, but it just felt like Taylor coming to terms with just kind of the person who she's become and not really wanting to go back. It just felt sad. I think that's the main takeaway here for me. But right after that, Taylor's outside and they're playing the prank with her where who was it that had the big dick?
I don't even remember his name, but
he's not part of the main team, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think he was one of the wards. I think he might have been like a protectorate member.
Yeah.
But that whole scene, I was like, what the hell is happening?
It was really funny, and then you find out it's a prank, and Theo is so sweet, where he's like, I didn't want to do it, I thought it was a dumb prank.
Oh, he's such a good boy.
Oh, what a good boy. Which, this kind of starts blooming this friendship between Taylor and Theo, where they start training together, and he's the only one that kind of can take her out, because she always has to have someone watching her, just part of her, I guess, extended probationary period.
Yeah, because talking about the relationship as friends, platonically, by the way.
Yeah?
Before we started talking about Arc 25, I think when we weren't recording, I was saying I was looking at like the chapter summaries of this arc, and one of them says Taylor trains with Theo, and I'm like, that's just a cool fucking summary that exists.
What a good line to exist. I didn't talk about this, but when I found out Theo was Golem, if I'm being totally honest with myself, I was a little let down that his storyline brought him into being a member of the wards. And I can totally see the positives of that. And one of them is that he gets to build this relationship with Taylor, which I think is really important for future events. That being said, as soon as Theo was introduced and Jack's challenge was introduced, I thought this would be like our chance to explore a different side of someone having powers instead of being a hero or a villain. Like, I don't know what I wanted, but like maybe off the top of my head, if he was a rogue hero. I don't think we've really been with many rogue heroes, if any at all, right? And maybe there could have been a thing where it's like he got his power from being alone, so maybe he thinks being alone is the best way to handle it, and he doesn't want to get other people caught up in Jack's struggle, because the whole reason that the struggle's a problem is that 1,000 innocents will die. So maybe Theo doesn't want to get more people involved. There's a bunch of ways that they could have taken that. They being Wildbow, it's only him. But and his writing staff.
There you go.
But I'm not gonna lie and say that like it was a slight disappointment when I found out, but so much good comes from it where it's like I can totally understand why it happened. And Theo is still top 10 characters. Don't get it twisted. Never forget.
Yeah, I love this boy.
Oh yeah, he's great. We get a bit of a time skip to when the Simurgh is attacking now. And it's kind of weird, right? Because it's the first fight after Behemoth has been killed. So there's a lot of expectations coming in where it's like, oh, they can be killed. So what are we gonna do when the next one attacks? There's a lot of expectations put on heroes, and Taylor's kind of just raring to fight. She wants to be proactive about this, and it's eating her up that she can't be, because she's too far away when the Simurgh actually attacks. But the attack only lasts 40 minutes, and all she does is take down a plane.
And like the funny thing is, because it's the Simurgh, whenever she attacks the plane, I'm just like, what if this is actually like the worst possible thing that could be happening?
Yeah, you can say that with Simurgh every time, and at that point, it's like there's no point in debating it because I guess we'll just have to wait and see because this could go anyway. We don't know, at least so far, what the limits of her precognition are, or if they can be interfered with, if she's really writing stuff into fate. So it's hard to say. But the real takeaway here is that she did a safe attack, just kind of to be safe and just kind of show up and get, like, she's getting paid for this, you know, so she's like, I gotta get my quota in. So just
she doesn't want the golden man showing up.
She's just in and out, which I thought was interesting. It just kind of frustrates Taylor.
She's like, I don't know, when she's around the water cooler with Leviathan, she's like, in and out, quick 40-minute attack. I'll be right, like, it'll be good.
BRB. And then they go back and they start talking about Game of Thrones season 8
there you go.
whatever's popping off at the time.
Yeah.
So we get to this point where Taylor's kind of comparing herself to Armsmaster. They're having one of their very lovely chats that they have from time to time. This might be the point where she's like, no, that comes later. Never mind. But yeah, they're just talking. They're getting to know each other better now. They're spending more time together. And she says that she's becoming more like Armsmaster, where she's offering people offers that she knows they won't take. That's kind of the person who she sees herself to have become. I don't agree that that's what Armmaster was doing when he was dealing with Taylor. Basically, this line makes it imply that Armmaster kind of used Taylor as a spy on the Undersiders, knowing that saying it's an offer that she wouldn't accept. But I never felt like he did anything like that with her.
Like, I think he was genuinely offering her.
Yeah, maybe I'm misremembering, and maybe there's something I missed. But the way that played out was, it's been a while since I've read it, but it's kind of fresh on my mind since Tyler talked about it recently. It's like, okay, you stay in there, and as soon as... don't get me wrong, he wanted to take credit for it, but he's like, okay, and then I will help you pardon out all of the things you have to do while you're in there. Just don't do anything too reckless. And of course Taylor did, because she has to escalate. So I don't know. I think she's still, all this to say that she's still kind of negative on Armmaster, / defiant. She still kind of views some of his past actions in a way that kind of colors how she sees him today. And I mean, it's getting better over time, but I feel like he left a lasting impression that's kind of being hard to rub off, I guess. Khonshu shows up.
Ooh.
This is so when Behemoth died and we got that feel good moment, in the back of my mind I'm like, okay, so what's the shoe that's gonna drop?
Yeah, like, we can't have nice things, so what's gonna happen?
If Worm has taught me anything, is that you literally can't have nice things. I remember when Taylor was like, man, feels like everything's going great, and then the Slaughterhouse 9 showed up.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those scenarios. So in my mind, I was like, okay, either we're getting a replacement for Behemoth, or another Behemoth, or Leviathan and the Simurgh are going to stop holding back. What we got was even worse, where we're going to get 2 more Endbringers. Khonshu shows up, and this shit is nuts. Like, Khonshu's initial attack got me in the same state of despair as watching Behemoth fight. Even though he's way less destructive, he's almost impossible to fight. That's what makes him so scary.
Yeah, and like, it's even more devastating because at least for these other Endbringers, they've been fighting them for years or decades, so they know what the power is going in. This guy, they can't know, so someone gets caught in like one of his circles, and people just have to kind of witness this new horror. And I have to say, like, I like the way he uses these like time acceleration circles where if he gets a wound, he'll like move the time acceleration on it so it heals.
Yeah,
It's cool.
really cool. But the most terrifying part of Khonsu is that he can teleport.
Oh my god.
So when we find out that he can teleport, the chapter kind of ends shortly after that. But then when you get to 25.5, you find out they've been fighting him for 3 days.
That is like one of the most shocking starts to a chapter. I am just like, holy shit.
Yeah, my mouth was agape. Just think about that, man. That's 72 hours of nonstop Khonsu teleporting, and the heroes having to mobilize to fight him for 30 minutes, and then he's teleporting to another city.
Because like,
wow,
if you're watching the news about like a Leviathan attack that's happening on the other side of the world, you're like, wow, this is terrible. At least he's not here. With Khonsu, like, you're sitting there in your living room and you're like, any minute he could just appear.
Yeah, they say that no one's been able to sleep for more than 2-hour increments, really, because of the over-looming fear that Khonsu's just going to show up. I wonder if people worked that day.
Man, I feel like
I'm not going to work.
I'm not going to work. My boss is just going to have to get over it.
Man, living in Worm sucks.
I'll say this is a scary world.
We get the meeting of Cauldron and all of like some of the bigger ups. Even Chevalier was there, which was surprising to me. But I like how he lays down the law and he's like, "No, we're not going to release the prisoners." They start bartering with 100,000 lives, which just shows the scale that we're working with here.
Yeah, I feel like at this point, this is where I started thinking of Cauldron kind of as we talked about Fierce for arc 24, and I feel like Cauldron is like the even further utilitarian extreme than he is, where it's like, oh well, if we sacrifice 100,000 people but save 200,000, then it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, who gets to choose the 100,000 people? And there's just so many moral arguments that come up with that, and there's not enough time in the world to like fully discuss that. So I don't know. I just wanted to like bring up, I think, Cauldron's role.
Yeah, and I've had a feeling for a while that Cauldron is a quote-unquote good force, just because like that's also the dramatic irony that we've come to expect from Worm. But they're a good force in the utilitarian sense, where, yeah. What's the deal with Morgna anyways? Like, why does she want 100,000? I think I missed that.
So
to feed it to her whatevers?
Yeah, she's like a stand user from JoJo's, and she has some like shape-shifting black mass with a skull. And I think we're meant to she's supposed to be like, I mean, she's powerful enough to be here.
She's powerful enough to be a big contender for even having this conversation.
Yeah, and I think we're meant to assume that her power's fueled by living people. So she's like, "Oh yeah, I'll fight it. Just give me this many thousand people."
She's also the one who's all about the fairies, right?
No. That would be Glastic Winye.
God, it's the weirdest name, and because I've never seen it in text, I couldn't even begin to think how that's spelled.
It is not spelled how you think.
Great. I don't. So did they accept 100,000? Because she goes on and fights, but I think I missed Chevalier's reaction.
I accepted the deal.
So Chevalier just let that one slide, huh?
I mean, he spoke out against it, but I'm not really sure what he can do.
Yeah, I think he realized that it's just like, well, I told them they shouldn't, but at the same time, if it gets Khonsu out of our back, maybe I just need to voice my opinion and let whatever happens, happens. And we get the next interlude where... Whose interlude was even... Who was the 25.A interlude?
There's only one interlude in 25.
Oh, I
But
marked it as an interlude, but it's just the last chapter.
yeah, 25.6.
Yeah.
I think like it is structured very differently.
No,
Uh,
but it's still Taylor. Yeah, that's why I was confused. I was like, this is all
yeah, it's
Taylor.
just a lot of jumping around, both in places and in time.
After 163 targets, Khonsu has been defeated.
Jesus.
Insanity. With the help of Morgna, Legend, and Eidolon.
Oh well, she helped defeat him, so I guess that means Cauldron was completely justified.
Fuck, what happened? Like, did those 100,000 lives get processed in this time skip that just happens now? I didn't even think of that, but oof.
Ooh.
Anyways, suddenly Taylor's 18, and we realize we've been living in a world now over a year and a half of just every 2 months an Endbringer attacks, and Taylor has been to so many of those fights now.
Yeah, and there's a lot about this time skip. There's this is one element of the story that, if I'm not mistaken, Wildbow wants to pay special attention to on the rewrite.
Yeah, it was a bit weird. It felt, for how slow Worm can move sometimes, this
Yeah.
one felt super fast.
Yeah, there's been I think everybody has some kind of take on the time skip. I for one, I'm cool with I'm cool with time skips.
Yeah.
I think this is cool. I felt like it was a little, I think it was a little jarring because we probably did a few mini time skips before I even realized we were time skipping.
Yeah.
But we end up getting some really cool lines out of it that I think kind of get us in the mindset we need to be after the time skip. The one that really stood out to me was, I think it might have been Tecton, who is like berating Taylor for running off to go to another one of these meetings with Cauldron, and he's like, you have been with us for way longer than you were ever with them, which
Yeah.
is referring to the Undersiders. Um, and hearing someone say that line, considering how long the story is and how much of the word count Taylor was with the Undersiders, we're just like, holy shit. But I really like it because it kind of shows that, like, for us, I think we still view Taylor more as her pre-time skip self, just because we've been with her pre-time skip self so long.
Mm-hmm.
And we do this really quick transition, and he says this line about, he's like, why are you still so hung up on them? You've been with us for way longer. And I think it just shows that to Taylor, she never fully moved on. It's like, those are her people. That's where her Cape career started. She has probably been in, she went up against the Slaughterhouse 9 with them. They were some of her first friends, and I don't know. I think that's I think that particular line was intentionally jarring.
My stance on it is pretty similar to yours, where it's like, it was a jarring time skip that is very oddly paced with the rest of Worm, but at the same time, it did such a good job to show that nothing emotionally relevant happened to Taylor in a year and a half. I think that's the main idea here, is that, like, if there was a big emotional moment for her in this time, we would have probably seen it. But to her, it's been a routine of working with people. There were no real connections there. At least that's the take you get from this time skip.
Yeah.
Because
like
we didn't see it.
Yeah, it's like she is here with these people because she has to be. That's part of the deal she made, and because she wants to help in the battle against the end of the world, I assume, with the heroes. But
I mean, we find out later that functionally she's been preparing for the battle, like, at the end of the world, more than most people have.
Yeah.
And that's been her main focus. You always talk about how Taylor needs a goal, and here she has such a specific goal that, like, she closes herself off from. I feel like she never even tried to make friends with them with the Chicago Awards, and it's really disappointing. Not on a storytelling sense, just as like, damn, Taylor, like
Like
you.
Taylor, you work so hard to save people, but you you don't know these people that you're trying to save.
Which is it's doubly sad when you learn more about Golem and all that.
Yeah.
Um, Taylor sucks. Woo woo. All right. For this interlude coming up, Bonesaw interlude, man. Wow.
Who saw this one coming?
Who saw? So when I found out about this interlude, I was like, I am not interested. I kind of can't stand Bonesaw. This is one of the best interludes in the series. So,
Hell yeah.
this was super good. We get to see Bonesaw's trigger event, which is just terrifying. Basically, just the Nine continuously undoing her work as she tries to patch together her family to where she eventually just has to break and let her mom die. And like, it's hard to say if she starts to admire Jack or she's forced to, and eventually her mind warps to where she does have some sort of infatuation with him. It's this weird borderline that I couldn't quite get a read on, and I'd love to see people's opinions on how Bonesaw really feels about Jack deep down inside.
There's so much I loved about getting to see where she came from, because this little psychopath who just experiments on these people like they're things, you like, whenever we first see her, you wonder what makes someone like that. And we see that whenever she's going through her trigger event and her family's being repeatedly killed by the Nine, she is desperately trying to save them, but having the insight she does from her power and doing this for so long, she eventually reaches that point where she says she views her mother just as a thing. She just kind of loses her ability to see people as people. They're just these machines to her now. And I think there's something else that we learn about later in this interlude that I think is also going to be relevant here. And actually, I guess I might as well talk about it now. If we want to go a little non-chronologically here.
Yeah.
Later in this interlude, she has a talk with Contessa, who tells her a few statements, which, if Contessa's telling you anything, it's probably because she has an objective in mind telling you that.
Mm-hmm.
One thing she does tell Riley, though, is she brings up the concept of breadth and depth.
Yeah.
And this is the first time we hear about these things in this story. And I think if there's ever a time to introduce this concept, it's probably most relevant in Bonesaw's interlude, because Bonesaw starts to reflect on the concepts of breadth and depth and what they mean for these clones she's making. And the theory she settles on is that the connections we have with our passengers, I say our, like we're fucking parahumans, the connections that humans have with their passengers kind of fall into two categories, and she calls one of them deep connections. And she says that these are whenever someone is very naturally, their personality is like naturally aligned with their passenger. And
such as what's been hinted with Jack in the Numberman interlude.
Yeah, Numberman hinted it, and even here in this interlude, I think Bonesaw like explicitly uses him as the example of what she sees as depth. For breadth, she is looking at her clones, and she sees that she gives them their powers basically as soon as they're born, and they are growing up in their tubes with this connection to their passenger. But every time she tries to test one, she sees that they're too violent, and it's like, because they got their power so young, their personality has been morphed by the passenger. Instead of being naturally aligned with it, it's like the passenger has influenced them to be naturally to be aligned with it. And she thinks about this in terms of her clones, but I think we introduced this concept in Bonesaw's interlude because she's probably the youngest person with a trigger event we saw in the story. And you have to wonder how much she was influenced by her passenger.
That's so interesting for multiple reasons that we might talk about in a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's table this conversation. I want to have this conversation later. That's
I'm sure it'll
super
be
cool.
relevant later.
I'm sure. Um, oh, Tyler's calling me. Hold on.
Oh, God.
I do want to talk about her friend that she makes, whose name escapes me.
He's Guy. I don't know.
What? He's Guy. Okay, that's a sentence.
I'm sure he has a name.
So Guy is just a little kid that works at a store, and Bonesaw befriends him, which is such a significant moment because she's alone, right? Jack is already in stasis. She's just hustling to get all these clones ready, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, I gotta go to the store to pick up some whatever you need to make clones." And she starts befriending this boy. She even kidnaps a girl for her memories, and like she hides it from the boy, and it's just all sorts of fucked up because it's a Bonesaw interlude. You know it's gonna get like that.
You just know.
You just know. But I think notably, this is when we most get to see her rebelling from the brainwashing that Jack and her passenger potentially have done to her. Where it's kind of an insignificant thing, but she gives him a letter with plane tickets for him to escape once they're back. And I just think it's, how did you humanize such an annoying piece of shit character like that? Wow, Bo, it was great moment.
She would have never done this before. She would have done quite the opposite before.
She would have put like a poisonous paper that will make him a miasma at the most critical juncture of his life.
I love to see how she changes over the course of one chapter, because we find out in this chapter that for like the way she acts around Jack, it is, or maybe at least it was at first, pretty much an act. He has this image he wants her to maintain, and she does, and maybe doing it for so many years, she deluded herself into that becoming her true personality. And now, for the first time since she was really, really little, Jack isn't around, and she doesn't have to pretend anything. She can act however she wants, and we see how much more human she becomes. Obviously, she is still a monster,
because
but
I mean, she's been warped this way, you know, like it's not a flip of a switch.
yeah. And I don't know, I just love I love the Bonesaw that we see in the later half of the chapter.
It's notable to say that she still helps him out, even though like she seems so unsure about it, and there seems to be so much deep centered hatred towards Jack, but also this weird infatuation with him. It's a really fucked up, complex relationship, and it's one that I'd have to reread the chapter and like really pick away at it the whole chapter, because I feel like there's a lot there.
Yeah, it feels like the most extreme case of Stockholm syndrome
Exactly.
of all time.
And so like even without Jack there and she's in full control, she gets a little bit of herself back, but she still follows through with the plan.
Yeah.
Very sad when you really think about it. Yeah, that was a fantastic interlude.
And then at the very end, just because it's cool, and you brought it up to me when you were reading it, Grey Boy's introduction is so ridiculously menacing. Like, all these clones are naked coming out of their tubes, and she notes that he was naked in his tube, but when he steps out, he's wearing like a private school uniform. There's like double images of him everywhere.
Oh my god, that makes so much sense now.
And she tops all this off with, as far as powers went, his was like as unfair as they got. And I'm just like, how could he possibly be worse than half the people in this room?
And yet somehow he is.
Yep,
and it's really cool how when she's like, I think shaking hands or hugging, but she's trying to keep a poker face. She's like, oh, he could obliterate me and everyone in this room right now.
Yeah, she said he's the kind of person who would use his power on someone in this room just because he could. And of course, we don't know what his power is at this point.
And right as she says that, that's when he approaches her too. So
Yeah,
tension
it's just
building.
like we don't know what his power is in this interlude yet. But later, when we find out, her saying that he's the type of person who just uses it willy nilly horrifies me.
Man, gray boy, huh? It's also notable to say that he's the only one that has one clone because even Jack is not fucking with that. Not that much.
There's roughly 300 clones
Oh my
of
god.
psychopaths in this room, and Jack is confident that he can wrangle them all. But I'm only gonna make one gray boy because
Jack's lack of confidence here is very interesting too. Now that,
Oh, yeah.
Wow, man, Worm, be good. That's all I got for 25.
yeah, and like I think a lot of our time was spent on that Bonesaw interlude, but
It was worth
like
it.
obviously, right? Because it's so good.
All right, gang. That's and by gang I mean me and Bradley. That's 25. Cool. We're live for a special recording of the Freaking You cast.
Yes.
Why are you far away, Joe? Get over here.
I had to close my door
Okay.
to my studio.
Just real quick, we're recording this 2 days before we record this next podcast. I think it's episode 28. Because it's been problematic that our One Piece videos always come out like maybe the day of or the day after the next chapter comes out at best. Just because we generally record in the middle of the week. And all you guys are naughty boys and girls who read the illegal scanlations while me and Joe wait for Viz every week. So we're already starting on Sunday. So already 2 days ahead. Or you guys are 2 days ahead. Yeah. Anyways, we're going to try this out. Just do a quick little recording. Put this out before the podcast episode comes out. And then for podcast only listeners, you guys have to wait till the full episode is out, unfortunately. Check the YouTube if you want the One Pieces.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Also that. Okay. 964 Odin's Adventure.
Is that what it's called?
Yes.
And we got Beige's crew tearing up Dressrosa.
Yeah, I don't even know what's going on over here. Is this Beige's crew?
Yeah, remember they're chasing after No, this isn't Beige's crew. This is another crew
This
entirely.
is the Kiss people, like the yeah. But Beige is around. So
Yeah. Well,
this chapter was really cool. If I can say one thing about this chapter is that it moves really fast.
yeah.
But is that necessarily a bad thing? Because at the end of the day, it also adds to like the mythical storytelling vibe that this whole flashback kind of gives.
Yeah.
It kind of feels
I think it's
legendary. Fine. Yeah, like the parts where it stuck out is like, oh, Izo grabs onto the ship, and oh, Cat and Dog are also here, and it just kind of flies right past them being on the ship.
Yeah.
And then
I think
also Toki and Odin's relationship is done pretty quickly, but I'm sure we'll see more of it in the future.
Yeah. I think the whole point of this, like, it's basically the best way to look at this flashback is basically like in that tree when they're retelling the story of Odin to everyone.
Yeah.
So like I can't recount like every single like moment to moment detail of something that happened, but I can tell you like, oh, remember that one time Odin jumped onto a boat and then was driving across the sea for like 3 days and then he let go.
It feels like a legendary tale, right? So
Yeah.
the pace
It
almost helps with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But this chapter is interesting because it's a unique. It's our first look into
Whitebeard's crew.
Whitebeard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like because he wasn't around a lot during the old world, so we didn't really get a lot of screen time other than Marineford. But so we get this is a chance for Oda to show all these legendary characters and their crew members and see how they interacted with each other.
It's kind of
back in their
genius because we get to see a lot of these characters without focusing on like what exactly were their journeys about, because that would reveal too many secrets. So having Odin be the protagonist of this tale lets you peek into these characters without revealing too much. It's pretty elegant, I gotta say.
Mm-hmm.
Odin's a fucking Chad, and we'll talk more about it, I think, next chapter. I think one of my favorite things this chapter is how weary Whitebeard is of letting anyone join his crew because of his experiences with the Rocks pirates.
Yeah.
I kind of like this because it always felt weird that Whitebeard was in the Rocks pirates before he made his crew.
Yeah.
So this kind of shows that like he was there, but I think it was more of like this is a good way for me to start. Because
Here's
seems
my resume builder.
Yeah, it's a good resume builder. It's a personal project, and yeah, I feel like he didn't fully approve of the ways they did things.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like I feel like this might also like he's very selective, so it might be during that Rocks Pirates something happened between the crew, and he just did not like the animosity between everybody.
Yeah, so he bailed.
He bailed, and he's just like, if everyone's gonna get on the boat, everyone has to like each other. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You gotta learn to love each other.
How do you feel about this whole trial of holding on for 3 days? That is such a One Piece ass way to join a crew.
Yeah.
It's great, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Odin, man,
it's a little bit over the top because Odin, as far as we know, doesn't have anything supernatural about him. But at the same time, it's One Piece, so it really doesn't matter.
he's just his strength is measured by his Chad level, and that's actually not a joke in One Piece. That's just kind of how the power system works.
Yeah. Everyone runs on willpower except for Odin, who runs on Chad power.
Yeah. Well, Chad power is we didn't understand what willpower really meant until we met such a Chad.
Yeah.
We get to meet. I'm kind of going. I took notes here as I was reading, so that we.
It's been a while it's been 2 weeks since I've seen this chapter because.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there was a break after as well.
God, it was a double break. It was just like, what in the world?
I read both of the chapters last night. I just decided to double up, and I thought that was that worked out well. Toki's introduced here. She looks just like Hiyori.
Yep. This is the first time we see her like fully like without shadows or anything too.
Yes. Really interesting. Kind of blew my mind. She's from the Void Century.
Yeah.
That's nuts, dude. This woman has like the most interesting One Piece secrets in her bosoms. And I wonder if we'll get a peek of it in any way.
I want like if she's from the Void Century, that might also mean she might have been able to read the poneglyphs.
That's true.
Which might mean she taught it to someone else.
Yeah. Wasn't there a thing about like Wano has a thing about the poneglyphs, or like someone in there can read it. I forgot exactly how it goes, but Wano is related to the poneglyphs in some way, as I recall.
Kaido has one.
Kaido has one. That's definitely. I don't know if that's exactly what I remembered, but yeah, that's an important part of this as well.
Yeah.
I think an interesting thing about this flashback is seeing how this woman. She even says here, it's like, "Oh, I'm in trouble. Time to skip forward some more." It's cool to see that she met someone so cool that she decided to settle down. This woman who has traveled 800 years into the future through various time skips. That just goes to show you how good of a lay Odin is.
Yeah. How much of a Chad.
I like this gag with whenever she asks someone to take her back to Wano, they make this face.
Yeah.
So her going back to Wano, she says that like her parents were from Wano, right?
Right.
So I wonder what's up with that. So in the past, Wano may not have been a closed country because she left, and all she wants to do is go back for some reason. So
probably because the poneglyphs there. Maybe she
is it there now, or did Kaido bring it there?
I thought it was already there.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I feel like we would have heard about it in the flashback up until now, like the secret holy treasure. But maybe not.
Yeah.
I'm very interested to see more about Toki and see some good theories about her. So this octopus guy, Captain Karma, actually shows up later in the series, or earlier, as one of the Whitebeard allies.
Oh, the road poneglyphs in Onigashima.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which is where we'll have the climax. But yeah, this octopus boy was one of Whitebeard's boys, so that's really cool.
Who's this guy?
The octopus man?
Yeah.
He's just a pirate who Whitebeard. They were trying to capture Toki, and
Right.
Odin shows up and Whitebeard shows up and they defeat him. But I guess they get their honor later on in the timeline.
Oh, and they join Whitebeard's crew.
They're not in the crew. They're Whitebeard allies. So
Okay.
the people who showed up midway through the arc.
I see. I like these octopus boys.
Yeah, they're
So,
pretty
I
neat.
like it. Yeah.
I like. It's not a. Is it a fruit? No, I'm gonna say it's not a fruit. I think.
Nah, he's a fish man. He's got that tongue like what's his name has.
Oh, you're super right. He has 8 arms. Wait a second. He has 8 arms.
Yeah, he's got 6 arms.
Yeah, he has no gills.
Well, the cephalopod, like underneath it, the tentacles are hiding it.
Possibly, he could be related to Caribou, like you were saying, because of his tongue.
Yeah.
That seems like an Oda thing to do. So, notably, Whitebeard's crew is a family, and he calls everyone sons, but he calls Odin little brother.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Let me see that. Once again, I haven't read this chapter in forever.
It's in page 14.
Okay. Oh, you do not like that.
What?
When she's like, take me back to Wano. No.
No. I wonder why he doesn't. Maybe he just doesn't like going backwards. He's a very move forward kind of guy.
I think it's more of like there are so much weird. They found this weirdo here at Wano. They don't want to see what else is there.
I mean, they were there for 2 weeks, so they stayed around Wano.
Yeah.
This joke needs more lore, Oda. So, these last 2 pages of Odin just kind of writing in his journal, they're so wholesome, dude. The way he's experiencing the world, and I think Odin is so, like, I don't know, there's something almost cute about the way he writes in his journal. It makes me like him a lot. Like, he's so innocent and also very understanding when he's writing in his journal. I guess he doesn't have to be so outwardly chattish. He can just kind of let his feelings go through, and I think I
think this is very much a humbling moment for him.
Yeah.
This whole journey is because it's like, oh, there's so much more in the world. Like, I've just literally lived on Wano now. I am more than happy to see anything else that is in this place.
Remember when you were saying, like, Odin, when he gets on a ship, he's going to say, oh, it's so spacious, because the whole thing was about Wano being so small. You weren't quite right, but at the bottom of page 16... There's some interesting lines there where every day my old illusions were shattered. Everything surpassed my imagination. I was so small. I only knew a tiny piece of the world. So you were kind of right, but I think it's even more interesting here where he goes, Wayno wasn't even small. It was just like my understanding of the world was smaller than even I knew. I think that's a really cool takeaway from kind of what he's been yearning for his whole life without really understanding.
So here's
So
we get Toki revealed to be born about 800 years ago, which if you're doing math, One Piece math, voice entry like we said before. But what's interesting to me here is that Shanks has the hat already.
Yes. Oh, and what's interesting, so Shanks has the hat, but Roger has his skull hat.
Yeah.
Next chapter, Shanks has both hats.
Yeah. I think that's just Roger having the hat off but
I think Shanks is a walking coat rack. That's the joke that's going around now.
Yeah, but the thing is like
he was already the favorite, I think.
Right. That's the thing. And like I feel like there's more to like Shanks and Roger's relationship because of it.
Yeah.
It could be just like he picked him up he just picked him off on the side of the road one day and just put it on. It's like, I like you, kid, and they sailed off.
Maybe maybe the hat was like maybe Shanks needed the motivation Luffy needed. So he passed on the hat the same way to give him like a symbol of motivation and hope.
But he brought him onto the ship, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Because he looks around the age Luffy was when we were introduced between their relationships. Mm-hmm. So there's something that's definitely there that's different between Luffy and Shanks than Shanks and Roger.
Well, you know what? I think Roger knows that he's gonna die in like 2 years. Well, he doesn't know now, but in like 3 or 4 years, Roger's gonna die. And I'm gonna say,
he does. He says in the next chapter.
The next chapter, time has passed. I'm just saying, He
Oh, okay.
right now, right? He doesn't know he's gonna
Yeah.
die necessarily. We don't know, but he might have an inkling of it, and maybe all along he's known more about his destiny than we know, right? Maybe he always knew that Shanks wasn't the one to carry on his will,
Right.
and he gave it to him for safekeeping and put him in his crew. But when Shanks sees Luffy, he's like, no, he has to do his own thing because he is the one to complete the will of D, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a viable theory there.
Right.
Also, yay, Roger, front and center.
Yeah, like just yeah. This is the first time we've ever heard him talk. No, we have seen.
No, we've seen
Yes,
him talk.
Yeah, in the jail area, but this is like the first time where like we've seen him kind of like at his prime.
Yeah, it's. I think we've seen him in like little flashbacks. I think Whitebeard has one where they're drinking sake or something. But like this is proper Roger. He looks like a sexier older Ace.
Yeah.
By the way, Bradley on our friendly Discord server earlier was like, man, I'm just going to say it, poor Gas DA, sexiest manga character. And I was just like, please nobody say Rip Ace. Please, God.
Playing with fire right now.
Yeah, he is playing with fire, and I don't know how to like tell him not to because it'll be too obvious.
Yeah.
So let's just fucking hope. Anyways, on to chapter 965.
Oh, so this is where shit gets crazy.
Shit gets kind of crazy here. So,
yeah. We got Beige taking all the pirates' butts.
Yes, so he's gonna be another hero of Dressrosa potentially. You get a lot more narration by Odin, which is fantastic as always. You get the blooming romance of him and Toki. And he's a dunce about it, but I really like how Marco and Jozu are blushing about it.
Yeah.
Also, I didn't mention last chapter, but Marco already has his fruit. We saw like a panel. The panel where Odin's on fire, you can see Marco flying.
Yeah, I saw an interesting take on Marco that Marco can be the only person that has the Phoenix fruit because he revives himself every time he dies.
Well, I mean, the Phoenix fruit user maybe dies of old age.
Right, but like the idea of a Phoenix is that it dies and becomes reborn.
Right.
So basically he dies, it becomes reborn, and he keeps the fruit. Does that make sense? So this could be like another incarnation of Marco.
That's interesting. I feel like I was gonna say if he dies, I bet the fruit transfers. But I mean, Brooke's fruit did not transfer when he dies. Because it's part of the fruit, it stays within him. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting.
So meaning you just need a blanket and some darkness, and maybe you can strip it away. But
yeah, all you need really is a blanket.
But yeah, this is the first half of this chapter is very much just like Odin's still doing Odin things.
There's something so good with this chapter in the beginning that I forgot. Here, Whitebeard, the Navy's chasing him, and Odin's like, "Why aren't we fighting?" And Whitebeard says, "They're an organization. If we fight them, it's just more trouble than it's worth." First of all, completely different from Roger, who's like, "Come on, send your strongest."
Yeah,
I want to fight some admirals today. I'm gonna die next week, dude. Like,
where's Garp?
Where's Garp? But this is so interesting because at the end of Whitebeard's life, he did the complete opposite. He fought the entire Navy at once, all for his son. Which I think this is a really it's a very small moment in this chapter, but I think it's really cool to look at Whitebeard at this point. And Whitebeard throwing away that caution when it comes to rescuing one of his crewmates. Very cool. Yeah. And it's also interesting because like maybe this journey will help you see your country's still free for now. So he's aware of like how good this journey can be for Odin. Momonosuke is born. I think I've been calling him Momosuke in all the podcasts.
Yeah, I think I have.
Oh no.
I like how he keeps on trying to call him ingredients.
Good joke. But yeah, Momonosuke, dude, he was on, I'm assuming, both Whitebeard and Roger's ship, which is badass.
Yeah.
Another face. Teach, dude, I fucking flipped when I saw Teach. Yeah. Unfortunately, he doesn't show up again in the chapter.
But this is definitely like... So, like, one of the recurring themes of this chapter is that we've been getting snippets of flashbacks, and then we have a bigger flashback that has all those snippets like threaded together.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is a snippet for Teach's flashback that's going to come much later.
Yeah, for sure. Teach's background sounds interesting. All we know for now is that he's potentially an orphan, and he's been with Whitebeard since he was a kid. That we didn't know.
Yeah.
That's big because I think from all the way back here, I think from childhood, Teach has been planning his ascension.
Mm-hmm. It goes back to what we were thinking about, where the foils of Luffy and Teach being Luffy just wants to become king of the pirates and find One Piece, but the idea of being Roger is not in his head.
Yeah.
Whereas Teach wants to be Rocks.
Yeah, that's what we think, right?
Yeah.
I mean, his ship seems to support that as well, and it's it's the saber of Zebek.
Yeah.
More wholesome narrations, but we get back to the capital.
We get the flashback within the flashback.
Where shit goes down.
Yeah.
So, all along this flashback, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, how are things working so well for Orochi?
Yeah.
And it's explained with a very cool throwback with the clone fruit making its return.
Which was a shock to me. I was just like, what?
Of course this could happen, right?
Yeah.
I like how Orochi's family, like, the flashback begins by making you think that it's a dishonored family, but then the hag is like, no, whoever wins makes the rules. Your grandfather was gonna poison everybody, and he got caught. Yeah. So there's only regret because they got caught, because otherwise Orochi would have been the eventual shogun of Wano. So what was interesting here is, this is partially Oden's fault because he was too kind to Orochi. I guess he just can't help it because Orochi's pretty pathetic. So but notably, the time where he sent him off to work with his dad, Oden at this time, he's in is it Kukri? Like wherever like the wild area was, Oden was taking over. The clone hag used Oden's appearance in order to fabricate this place so that Orochi could even get into the palace. Which, remember, I complained about that a couple weeks ago. I was like, if there's one thing I don't like about this chapter, it's like Orochi got in too easily.
Yeah.
But this makes sense.
What makes sense even more, looking back, when there's that panel where Orochi's hiding behind a corner and you think he's just listening in, he's actually just hiding from Oden. Because
shit! Yeah. Because, like...
Oden doesn't know that he's working there.
And even if he does, like, he won't say anything at the time because it doesn't seem that pertinent. He's like, oh, cool, Orochi's working here. That's fine. But if he shows up, like, that's going to be a conversation topic, and that might reveal it, you know?
Right.
That's really good. That's really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought he was just listening. So I kind of, like, dig Orochi's, like, he's clearly super poor. And just the idea that at some point through ruthlessness, his family could have been shogun material, right? So
yeah.
Go. Just to finish my thought, his family could have been shogun material. So he grows up with this hag molding him the same way that someone molded Big Mom, or because Strussel, that's not his name. It's close enough. The chef, right? He molded Big Mom into a monster. And Treble molded Doflamingo into a monster. So this is a nice, like, third beat of that idea of people taking these kids and seeing the potential of evil in them and really nourishing it, which I think is really interesting. And I can totally understand why Orochi, he sees how close his family got and he just decides to go all the way in. This little motherfucker, I gotta give it to him, though. But what were you gonna say, Joe?
Oh, I was gonna say that this hag could be someone else entirely. That that this hag isn't a hag. It's someone else.
The thing with that is, all we know is that this hag died now.
Yes.
Because Bon Clay is not this hag, you can't talk bad about my boy.
Right, and it has to happen.
Unless.
Yeah, it has to happen 20 years ago. because Bon Clay has
is
the
in his
fruit already.
30s.
Yeah.
So, assuming he got the fruit from between 10 to 20 or something like that.
So Orochi could just straight up kill
I'm
this
thinking,
lady.
yeah, I'm thinking Orochi kills her, and I don't even think she'll be mad about it. She'll be like, I
Yeah.
raised you well.
Yeah.
The I think it's called Yamato no Orochi fruit looks really cool with the.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like that, using the clone fruit, bringing it back, and the beginning of this whole thing was like, why the fuck would you make Orochi the next one? Sure, he's from that old family, but surely you can find someone else. So like, it's kind of legitimate that he has that lineage from a disgraced family, though. But the fact of the matter is, and this comes back to what we talked about with Bradley when we first got the clone fruit. When the clone fruit's involved, you got to look for the mannerisms of the person using it. So I saw so many people miss the fact that it was the clone hag who was Sukiyaki here at the end.
Oh yeah.
Which is like they missed the whole stinger of the chapter basically.
Dead.
So yeah, that's the thing. So Sukiyaki has been dead for a while, maybe?
Probably, yeah. So
it's fucked.
Because he's definitely alive when when she's Odin. That's the other thing too, is that she had to have touched Odin at one point.
That doesn't seem hard to me.
That's true.
She could have seduced herself as a sexy lady, and like next time Odin wants to fuck, yeah, easy money.
Kill.
Yeah, which is great. So I didn't see anyone bring this up in the Reddit. This island where Odin is meeting Roger, that is definitely the island where Luffy trained.
Yeah, how can you tell? It's just
the animals. The animals look so close to them. The tiger, the gorilla, and the elephant. That elephant is the elephant that Rayleigh did the hockey beam on when it was being introduced. You can like maybe bring them up for reference and see how close they are.
Yeah.
But we get this, after all this time, chapter 965, we get this full page spread of Roger's crew, including Rayleigh, Boogie, Shanks, and Crocus. I see you, Crocus. I didn't forget about you. Oh man, this just feels great, and I hope we get more than one panel of Roger action.
Yeah.
Which is probably what we'll get.
Yeah. I'm like, this is the point where the Davy Back fight comes back around.
So, but then it probably won't come around for Shanks and Luffy, and I really like that. But it makes so much sense as like a third beat. Rules of three.
And it's also like, I think Shanks also repeating that process, of determining who's the better crew.
Oh, yeah, Shanks was here.
Because at this point, when he meets Shanks, Luffy will have beaten both Kaido and Big Mom.
Mm-hmm.
So this is his way of going like, all right, we don't hate each other, so let's just do this civilly as we can.
Just like my old captain did with his rival.
Right.
Something interesting about this. So yeah, if you guys don't know what we're talking about, there's this big theory that they could Davy back fight, and that's how Odin ends up. So that's how Odin, Cat, and Dog would end up with Roger, because Cat and Dog, I'm pretty sure, also sailed with Roger, right? Or did they not?
They did, yes.
So that's how they could end up there, but Inazuma, that's not his name. Inazuma's the scissor guy. Izo. That's why Izo would stay, but they would leave. There's got to be an explanation for that. Izo doesn't seem to like love Whitebeard more than he loves Odin right now. I mean, when he grows up, he will learn to love Whitebeard, but for now, he's just following Odin. So I think a Davy back fight would be a good way to explain why they split up. But yeah, I think that's One Piece. If you got anything else, Joe?
What a great spread.
That's a great spread, man. Roger looks sick.
Yeah. This is him in his prime, or just about to die. So at this point, he is dying. And he knows it.
He knows it.
Mm-hmm.
From the disease Luffy's 100% gonna get.
Yeah. Luffy's gonna, he already has it. It's AIDS.
It's oh no, what did those Amazonians do to him?
So people mention that the people on in Roger's crew is pretty close to what Luffy's crew is because he's got a fishman, he's got Crocus, which is Chopper, and he has this like little head things that look kind of like antlers.
I'm gonna say Stretch
Yeah.
Armstrong. The only thing there is that like One Piece
Stretch Luffy.
Stretch Luffy strong. The only thing there is that crews have similar roles. So yeah, they're
Yeah.
gonna have a doctor, and yeah, they're gonna have a navigator, which is Rayleigh. But people are like, oh, the Rayleigh's the Zoro. Someone said Yasop's in here, dude. Yasop is part of like Shanks' crew. Like, get it?
That's all that feels like.
No. There's this guy over here that people have been thinking was Denjiro. He's right next to Crocus. Cause
Oh yeah, that's nah.
I mean, we know.
We already know who Denjiro is.
Yeah, no. They were like, oh, Denjiro ends up being this guy, but that's clearly not the case.
No, we've already met Denjiro.
No, they say Denjiro. Like, the theory was that so we've seen this guy before. Apparently, this I don't remember, but people were like, Denjiro is going to leave Wano and become this guy in Roger's crew, but that's not the case.
That seemed no. That is, but so all right. So here's we gotta put our so there's for sure going to be like Roger conflict next chapter, right?
Okay, yeah.
Like he's definitely gonna fight or do something.
Off screen, of course.
Okay, but here's where we put our bets down whether or not he has a devil fruit.
Ooh, is it time?
I think so.
I mean, yeah.
Because if there's ever gonna be a moment where Oda reveals what the devil fruit is, it'd be now. I would think.
I'm gonna say so. Let me look at. Garp doesn't. Whitebeard does. Shanks, we're gonna say doesn't. Kaido and Big Mom do. Sengoku does.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say, unfortunately, Roger doesn't.
Unfortunately,
I want him to. A lot of people just want him to be a cool, strong guy.
yeah.
And while One Piece has plenty of those, and that's because willpower is the main thing, I also kind of want him to have a busted devil fruit just to add insult to injury.
I would like for him to have a devil fruit, but I would like it for it to be one we haven't seen before.
Whatever it is, it cannot be the gum fruit, please.
Yeah.
Come on, Oda.
I don't think it will be because he uses his sword.
I mean, Luffy could learn to use a sword, like stretchy sword.
Nah.
If Luffy awakened with a sword, he could do the shit that guy from Bleach does.
I don't know what you're talking about because I only watch good things.
Hey. He could do the thing that no JoJo character does this either. Whatever.
What about that one guy from Street Fighter V?
There's a guy with the stretchy sword in Street Fighter 5?
Oh, I meant he had stretchy arms, but it's fine.
Luffy can already do Dalsim. But he can't do Yoga Fire. That can be the next upgrade. But yeah, I'm gonna say no devil fruit. What
if Roger has the earthquake fruit and then Whitebeard gets it from him after he dies?
We haven't seen Whitebeard do any earthquakes.
Yes.
I mean,
because then think about it. That fits in with the idea that Blackbeard's falling rocks, and he gets Rox's devil fruit was the shadow fruit, and then it's like, well, I got to get the guy that beats him.
That way, no one can beat me. I can only beat myself.
Yeah, basically.
Ooh, that's a bold claim. I think I kind of like it. Like, it totally fits within the story, but at the same time, like you said, I'd rather it be a new fruit.
Yeah, I'd rather it be something
I'd
new.
want it to be, if anyone is to have the water Logia fruit, maybe the King of Pirates should have the most busted fruit in One Piece. Maybe.
He just controlled all water.
Which is kind of like weird to think about. Like, some people are like, there will never be a water fruit because it contradicts Sea Devils. But I'm like, hey, if there is one, it would, one, be the strongest, and two, be Rogers.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Big doubts there.
The aqua fruit.
Oof,
the Aquafina fruit.
The drip drip fruit, baby, because Roger got the drip.
Makes everyone wet.
Yeah, of course. I mean, look at him.
Mm-hmm.
That man is thick.
He's so big.
He's fucking thick, dude. Look at him.
He can be a JoJo's character.
Yeah.
Like parts 1 to 3.
This motherfucker said, "Oh, you're approaching me."
Yeah. Compared to Luffy, he's a skinny boy.
Luffy's a bitch. All right, yeah, we're going a bit long here. Let's wrap it up.
Are we though?
We're 33 minutes, 34.
Okay.
It's a little long.
Anyways, Roger for President 2020. Go vote in your local polls.
You heard it here first. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
All right.
Welcome
Joe and myself are left in the
Yeah.
Freaking You cast.
Freaking You cast part 2, I guess. I don't know.
What are you talking?
Maybe
Oh,
One
we did One Piece earlier this week. Yeah. We're doing Jojolion now. Because One Piece is the best manga in the world until a chapter of Jojolion drops.
It's true.
And then all shit falls through.
Oh,
Really love this cover page, yeah.
I love pink Josuke.
It's so they bring up really early in this chapter how poor Tom got kind of assassinated when he was running off with a branch.
Yeah.
So I'm glad Araki brought attention to this because it was never explained. We can assume that it's kind of a misfortune that happened as a result of the pursuit stand, maybe. Maybe at that moment he resolved himself to betray the head doctor or something, and like he was pursuing him with some negative intent. I don't think we'll get a better answer than that.
Yeah.
This is a short chapter, so I think we'll go through it pretty fast because the next major thing that happens is Josuke giving a package to the courier man.
Yes.
Bye, Kai. What?
That's
yeah, I was like, is this a sex thing? I don't know why I thought that. I was like, is this like a hookup? Like, are you the guy I met online? No, I guess not.
So what's interesting about this is Josuke is quiet the entire time when giving him the box.
Josuke doesn't speak once this chapter.
Yeah.
All he does is he has a remembering thought bubble of, but it's okay if I'm made to go after him.
Mm-hmm.
So a running theory right now within the fan base that I really like, but I'm trying to figure out if it works, is that he is sending Dolomite a package, and that's why the guy reacted weird, because Dolomite lives in the middle of a park. And then I guess Dolomite would come here, control Josuke, because to control Josuke, he needs to infect a person and have that person infect Josuke, or I guess he can just do it with touch. Unless, like, the idea is that he infects the courier, but that would be kind of fucked up, because whoever's infected can only walk in a straight line, which is the whole point of Blue Hawaiian.
Mm-hmm. I think the other thing is, I don't know. I that's an interesting theory, and I like the theory, but I also feel like the other potential way is that he talks him into sending the zombies after him and corralling him towards Josuke. Does that make sense?
Huh. So he sends zombies after Josuke, which forces Josuke to escape them and get closer to the head doctor.
That, or it's like he sends them both at Josuke and the head doctor and corrals them.
To send him after the head doctor, he needs the head doctor to touch part of his body.
Oh, that's
because
right.
The whole thing was that Josuke had to touch one of Dolomite's teeth to start the attack.
That's true.
So I don't know if that works.
So unless, he happens to have Dolomite's stuff, I don't think he does.
No, it's the opposite. He would need some sort of DNA from the head doctor or something.
Well, he just does what Dolomite does. He takes some teeth and gives it the head doctor's like, what the fuck is this? And he touches the teeth.
Oh, yeah, so the package could be to the head doctor.
Yeah, but I don't think that's what's gonna happen.
It could have a bubble within a bubble within a bubble within a bubble, and then there's just nothing inside, like he did with poor Tom. Guess we'll find out if Blue Hawaiian and Dolomite got brought back. I would love it. I love how Jojolion does that, and that would just make me feel amazing about everything.
Part 4. Yeah. The majority chapter is about Paisley Park and Yasuo.
Let's just gotta mention that the seat of Josuke vibing on the chair
Oh, yeah.
looks amazing. But yeah, Paisley Park is doing her hacking thing, which is like her secondary power. She's searching through the Higashikata house. Notably, I really like this conversation of Joshu being sympathetic and here Norisuke is just kind of down because in his mind, I have no doubt that in Norisuke's mind, he's like, all right, it's time for me to die.
Yeah.
Which is just really sad because I love Norisuke and the whole family is disturbed and Yasuo can see it.
Mm-hmm.
So Yasuo and Tsurugi have had several arcs together, which I think is really good because it's first of all, Tsurugi was creepy towards her, but then they had 2 fights together, which I thought were important at building up like Tsurugi as a neutral ally because if you remember, originally Tsurugi wanted to team up with Yasuo and Josuke to find out the truth about his dad. He was like, my dad's sketchy. I just kind of really need to know the truth. And they did. Like, they worked together several times. Now Tsurugi's potentially a villain candidate, but it's just really cool to see them together because they have that rapport. And I like how Tsurugi is still caring here. He asked her to leave because he knows by her being here she's in danger. And I mean, he was absolutely right because I really love this section of Paisley Park being dragged away, and it's really confusing because visually you're seeing stuff from like the phone's point of view, and it's disorienting.
Yeah.
Which just she gets Jobin. If he wasn't a main villain candidate enough, he dumps Best Girl into the toilet,
Right.
which is very evil. Let's talk about Araki's fucking art though. Like part 8 is illustrated incredibly.
It's framed well too. Like Jobin looking down the toilet into the looking at Paisley Park. It's so intimidating. Just that stance that he has and just awe empowering.
With the with the water filter in between. It looks incredible, man. This is going to look really cool in colored version.
I can't wait for that. Yeah.
Weird. This is the first time we've seen a Stan get drowned, and
True.
Yasuo is literally drowning. It's really cool. I don't know if this is consistent with previous fights.
No,
I don't think.
Dark Blue Moon when they had to use Star Platinum to talk to each other.
But Star Platinum was no. I was gonna say Star Platinum was holding his breath, but I mean they're talking to each other. It actually that was High Priestess when they're leaving the submarine, right?
No, that was when.
No, because in Dark Blue Moon, Jotaro is talking underwater, and it's the dumbest shit ever. I hate when anime does that.
Stand to talk.
Pretty sure in the anime, in the manga, he moves his mouth to talk. It's really silly.
Sure.
I think so. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. But
I can't wait.
I mean, Paisley Park.
Regardless, they were both underwater at the time. In Dark Blue Moon, sure, whatever. He's supposed to be the aquatic stand, but Star Platinum was not that.
Let's say he was holding his breath then, and so he wasn't getting drowned.
So that means stands need to breathe?
Remember when stands were tied to a person's breath in the very first arc of Part 3? Where Jotaro gets choked out, so Star Platinum, like, subsides. Good times. Anyways, this is horrifying. I don't know how she's gonna get out of here.
I don't know either. I guess Tsurugi, like, ends up, like, saving
her, maybe?
Yeah. Or she jumps into the toilet plug. I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, hold on. See, there's a plug coming out of this toilet here.
Yeah, it's for the bidet.
Oh, it is Japan, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that was a really short chapter.
Not a lot happened, but like a lot happened at the same time.
Not a lot happened, yet it was still amazing. It was a lot of you can't understate like the amount of facial expressions that were important to this chapter and the artwork, which is something we can't spend too much time on in a podcast format. But the illustration and the flow and a lot of the faces in this chapter really sell the emotion.
I just realized that like her hand is like exploding.
What's up with that?
Like, I think it's because Paisley Park is like short circuiting.
That's a good point. She's in. So a notable thing about Paisley Park is that when she's bound to something, such as when she was working with Tsurugi, and Tsurugi turned the phone into origami, but Paisley Park was in the phone, so both of their stands were in the same physical object. When I believe his name is Aisho, when he steps on it, they both get crushed. So that's definitely a consistent thing with Paisley Park, which I do dig. Got any predictions for next week? Because I think we're in the final arc in 1.5 chapters, because we're at the 3-hour 24-minute mark.
Oh god, I don't know, because 3 hours and 48 minutes, Norisuke has to be dead.
And Tsurugi has to be fine, and the family, that's an important part. The whole family was acting okay.
Yeah.
So in like 2 hours, they have to resolve this enough to where the family isn't on edge anymore.
Yeah. I think Tsurugi uses his power, like once he gets cured of Narasaki, to quell the family.
Maybe they're all under an illusion, because it seems like we're not clear, but it seems like he's got just a straight illusion power now.
Yeah, it seems like he's able to, like, because he always had that illusion power, but now it seems to be more of almost deleting King Crimson, like deleting like facts or object permanency from people.
It's true, like that seems especially true with the mom and the baby and Ojiro at the edge of the cliff.
Yeah, like it's less of a not skippy time. He's just adjusting the perception of the reality to the point where they don't realize they're about. And it relates back to the whole I'm going to turn every bus in America into Jobin.
In America? First of all, they're in Japan. I don't know if it was every bus in Japan. It was every bus.
Yeah, it was. It was every single bus and car.
Every single bus in the radius that he could see.
Yeah.
Anyways, I guess you're not wrong then, huh? Because as far as he knew, every bus in America was Jobin. Very fast-moving Jobin.
Is that a title?
Very fast-moving Jobin, moving at very high speeds.
I know where every bus in Japan is Jobin.
That's good. That's a good. Okay, all right. We got the title of this week. I think we're good. Short episode here. We got 12 minutes. That's perfectly fine.
We usually have a One Piece that lasts on this, and we're not doing it because we already did it.
We already did it. Yeah, but I do think by the end of the next chapter, the head doctor is going to already be in a state of disadvantage to where Josuke can clean him up in a half chapter after.
Maybe.
With big brain plays. That's my guess.
That'd be cool. I'm
very sad that Araki might go on break. Like, he usually goes in February, so it might be right in between that time span that I'm talking about.
Maybe Araki is having such a big brain power play moment that he just doesn't stop, and he finishes Jojolion, takes 2 years off, and then starts Part 9, Phantom Crusaders, or whatever you want to call it.
Blue Dude Bamboozle.
That's Bradley's name.
Everyone here, have a lovely time. We're out. Podcast 28 in the bag.
We'll see you next year.
We'll see y'all probably next year. Have a great New Year's and holidays. Non-denomination holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Oh!